trust.
Let's see, who do we have here? Patty, you're taking minutes, correct?
Yes, I am.
She sounded like she was gonna be here. Okay. Okay, let's get this meeting started. 6:05, 8/25/2022. Call this meeting to order. Who do we have here? We have myself, President. Here, Sean is here. Who do we have on Zoom?
Mark is on and Will.
Mark and Will. So we do have a quorum. We're missing Joe Hannon at the moment. correct? And Matt. I believe Matt did email me that.
God bless you.
Okay, we'll move on and move forward. Hopefully Joe Hannon can join when she's available. We're looking for approval of prior minutes. Did everyone get the email sent out this morning? I know there were 3 meeting minutes in there.
Yes.
Did anyone have any objections to those?
I will say they're much more accurate than we've had in the past.
Yes, I really appreciate the detail that Johanna.
Joe Hannon's were.
But I would like to
Today,
make,
if anyone hears that, said so, yeah.
but I would like to, there's some items on there that says we're gonna discuss later on. And that, hold for discussion, for the next meeting and whatever, that have not been, put in the minutes for as old. Like Encore violation inspection letter, community tree trimming. We tabled the offline backup fee. So are we going to start putting those as old business?
Yeah, I usually do. Some of those I haven't, probably because they were either not major sticking point items or because they're on hold until I get more info. But yeah,
Can I make a suggestion? Why don't we put those items in, since we're not currently discussing them in future time, into a section called tabled? Like
Yeah.
On our agenda,
Yeah.
tabled, and then we can open the table, put it back on the table when we decide to.
we can do that.
Yeah, but
No, you're right. Well, some-
I was just thinking that, just so that they don't drop off and,
Off the radar, yeah.
Probably, if we use that tabled list and we review it at the beginning of each meeting
Right.
to see if it's still active, so that way it's in the minutes and keeps getting brought forward.
I agree with that. That's a good suggestion.
I can start doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, a motion to approve all prior minutes. Can I get a second?
I second.
Mark, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, minutes approved. Officers report. I have listed here associate outstanding items to kind of remind me, we're still waiting on the Strongbox stuff, which I hear we are getting here.
Last week.
Yeah, waiting on Strongbox was the area where we stored all of our invoicing from payments that were made from Associa to our vendors. And we don't have that documentation or even access to it at the moment. They're supposed to be giving us a dump of the electronic scans, and we're still waiting on that. We have finally got access to the last account, and the money has been transferred into reserves as requested. It actually cleared yesterday. So that's been taken care of, and we have access to all the bank accounts at this point. We still have over $14,000 now in the operating that was not supposed to happen, but we're trying to sort through that. So they've been collecting money They say they're not, but we got debit cards, credit cards, ACH checks, and bank checks being deposited into the old account from Associa when they were supposed to just forward all that information to us during the transition. It didn't happen. So I'm sorting through that. It's coming out. One thing that did come up in this whole process is as I start onboarding all the vendors into our new system and looking at what's outstanding to make sure that we're current, it seems that they stopped paying some of the bills prior to us even announcing that we wanted them to. So that's caused some problems. We're getting some notices saying, hey, you haven't paid us. And as soon as I get them, we're trying to get them into the system and pay them immediately. So there's quite a bit of that going on, taking a bit of time, but it'll get sorted out probably this week. I'm hoping we've got almost all that taken care of. So all in all, we're 90%, maybe 92% of where I want to be with this. There's still some accounting from the first of the month to now that we're going to have to try to re-report on. And then we're also, this invoice dump is a big deal. So that's where we're at with things at the moment. It's, messier than I wanted it to be, but it's cleaner than it was the last time that we made a transition. So kudos to something. So that's all I have to say on that. Any questions?
But we're still waiting for source documents.
That's
Both
the-
both from Strongbox and from Kelly.
Kelly, well, that's another issue, but that's coming up in a separate discussion, but yes, that's true. Strongbox are the source documents that we're referring to from Associa. The Kelly situation we'll talk about here a little bit further down the list.
Perfect. Any other officer reports? Community manager reports. Patty.
I knew you were gonna do that. I didn't send this out to everybody, but I'll just read it as quickly as possible.
And y'all need
A
to
little bit
speak
louder.
up because of
Big-
the
Bring me into
deep
that.
breath.
From the diaphragm. Come on.
This is why the thunder's here, you know.
right. So if the people in the back can hear you.
Everybody, you're probably not gonna hear this, so just be ready, okay? So September 1st, I'm meeting with the CDD here in regards to the tree canopy over on Colony Glen. So I asked them to trim those trees because we're responsible for the townhouses over there. And the only way we can be put on the list is if I speak to the board myself. So if anybody, sorry, this is what happens when I speak loudly. And so if anybody needs anything, wants me to speak to the CDD about anything, let me know before next Thursday. If that's okay.
I know Mac has issues that you talked to me about previously. You don't want to have a discussion with him because he's kind of the liaison with the CDD. Probably catch up to speed of what he's doing.
Exactly. And I had a homeowner come in from Sagewood, asking if she could donate bags of mulch to the community. They have the benches over there. She wants to have them delivered, and she'll have them delivered directly to the spot, but then we just need somebody to spread them out. And I reached out to the landscaping company, and as a good faith gesture, they agreed to spread it for no charge.
Didn't see you soon.
Is that okay?
I have no problem with that as long as it's the right mulch.
Okay.
And I say thank you gratefully.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
And I know where it's going. It's gonna make that place look great.
Exactly. The homeowner who is waiting, the tree that fell down on the Lanai. I haven't spoken to Mary Beth today, because she's out of town. She has to go up to Orlando, but she's waiting for the response from the management. I'm sorry, from the insurance company. Her insurance company is going to be filed under her insurance company. We're going to get a quote for the tree removal. We're going to get a few quotes for the tree removal. It's a huge tree, but it's going to be pretty in-depth. The Sagewood gate is being repaired. We had to have somebody come out. There's a problem with it staying open. It's not the broken bumper, it's the motor. And it's only the exit. So you can get in, but you can't get out. No, you can't get out. The other
It's like
side.
a Roche motel,
Well, I guess it's good we got service on that.
I was going
Yeah,
to
it's
say, do we have a maintenance agreement
Yeah,
on
we
that?
do.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Absolutely recommended for a gate.
And
They're asking, can you please talk closer to the mic? Sorry.
that's okay. Let's see, I've done it. I
Do you want me
did,
to try to move it?
I did a walkthrough, a preliminary walkthrough of the gate of Sagewood. And there have been items that have been rectified by Sunrise, but we're also going to do a walkthrough. Danny and I are going to do a walkthrough on August 31st at 11 a.m. to make sure they're all taken care of or in the process of. And let's see, so I've been to the pool. I checked on a few items at the pool that I think need to be taken care of, fixed, or upgraded. I reached out to the pool contractor, Sean. I'm waiting for a response from him. Lake House. Okay, so the AC maintenance is going to make you happy. We are not going to renew the contract, so we're going to save the association $14.90 for 2023.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's a windfall. It's great. I'm just saying.
And JR and Tommy talked about it this morning, so he'll be able to maintain it. Or do the inspections on it and stuff like that. And actually, JR wasn't sure if he was gonna be here, so that's why I'm just updating for you. The, in regards to the playground that we're waiting for SoFro to come and schedule us to have that fixed. JR has been contacting them constantly and they're not responding. He finally did get a response today, but not as.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you want to come up to the mic and speak?
So basically, they just need a deposit. They're about 2 weeks out on scheduling. As soon as they get that deposit, we'll confirm the date.
What, how much of a deposit?
I think it's on the contract. I don't have it.
I will find it here while we.
That they got back with me. I actually met with him today, and so he talked about all the food bolting and all the hardware, made sure, and he went over it. So he's the boss.
We can take care of that.
Jennifer is planning to look for a new cleaning janitorial company for the
We
pump
still
house.
need to check it out. She's looking for a new job.
She's locked in the gate. She's now out of the gate. And so she's working on that. We're gonna figure out the type of things that we want cleaned regularly, deep cleaned only once a week, but
Yeah, if I can add to that, because we've been talking about it, we're trying to maybe kill two birds with one stone here. We do need a better cleaning service. Jennifer was telling me for a while now, they're not doing a good job. We need a little bit of a, what I would call unique situation. So, you know, when JR is on vacation or sick or can't make it, we need a cleaning service that can run around and grab the trash for the day, which we actually had in the past.
Yes, the company
So-
that we currently have, that's what they have done in the past, but the lady that we had previously is no longer with them, so we have someone else, and it's just very hard to speak with her. She doesn't speak very much English at all, so it's communicating through typing on the computer or typing through the phone, and sometimes things get a little lost in translation, I think, between the two of us, so, you know, it's kind of just a little hard to get things communicated sometimes, so.
The other thing that we're trying to maybe kill two birds with one stone here with that is, I've had this conversation with Matt a few times about maybe putting in a $50 non-refundable deposit on the lake house rentals, because very shortly here, this place is going to be kind of open for business hours, whatever the board seeks as hours of operation for the lake house. And when we keep that open, it's going to get messier and faster. And as of right now, even our rentals, we have, you know, JR will come, open up the door, whatnot, and if we have a party that's back to back or a party that's on Saturday and another one on Sunday, yeah, they clean up, but they don't clean up like it's your house clean up, right? So there's always some little furniture's got to be moved back. It's not more than 5 minutes of work. The bathroom, garbages need to be emptied and attended to. So hoping to kind of find that with the cleaning service. That would negate having to find someone in the community that wants to work on the weekend. That makes sense.
Someone asked, is the cleaning at just the lake house?
For weekends, no, a pool needs it too, actually. So if we could, because the pool's a disaster sometimes come Monday morning. If we could get a cleaning service that does weekend checkups, is able to be on call when JR is not available or put in extra time on a vacation. Reliability is lower.
So I've been working on the same thing for Encore, and I'll give you the three companies that I've got.
Perfect, perfect.
I particularly like the one.
Great. Thank you.
So one of the things I was ask is some information for me. At Encore, we have it cleaned twice a week. Once in the morning, one day in the morning, it's a couple hours. And then they come in late on Friday, to do their deep cleaning. But both times they wipe down the outside, and they empty the trash, and they do all that stuff. And I was wondering if we might give some thought to having a short couple-hour session and just one other day of the week to make sure the trash gets picked up and emptied. In our case, it didn't add an awful lot to the cost. So we're actually very busy over here. So.
Asking, can we speak up? Sorry, guys, it's the rain's really loud here, so that's why it's a little quiet on the speakers too.
So what I was saying, if we can scoot that over this way. What I was saying.
I'm sorry, I hit the probably off button. Mute.
Okay.
Reset.
Nod to somebody if you can hear me. Okay. So I was telling her that we are going through the same process at Encore. And I wanted to tell her I will give her the 3 people that we've got bids from, along with their proposal about what they're going to be doing. I did want to ask if we wanted to consider having one extra short visits, say, if they're going to come on the weekends, have them come on Tuesday or Wednesday in the morning to basically clean up, just light going over empty trash cans, dust up things around, in order to not let the trash get out of hand or put too much of a burden or responsibility on the staff, because they shouldn't have to do that. So that's what I wanted to suggest around that. We have the company we already have, and we put in bids for 2 and 3 days, they come on Tuesdays in the morning for a couple of hours, and then they come on Friday night after 10 o'clock, and they basically do a thorough cleaning and everything else. So it takes a couple of 3 hours, but there's nobody here, so it's easy for them to go and get done. Of course, that does mean that we need to get them to have bonding insurance, because they're here by themselves, and they don't have access to the facilities. But as we've gone through and thought that through, we've given some thought to that being a plus thing for us to do that. So I just want to toss that in for consideration.
Yeah, the one thing that is important, though, which I'm going to try to keep track of here forward, is that all vendors for the association must be, I mean, I'm sure for $1 million, it's a lost page, and it has to be a certificate issued to us for that. So that means it can't be just a weekend warrior, it's got to be somebody who actually can do insurance.
Mark said motion to have the board put together 3 cleaning options for next month's meeting and take a vote on the select course of action at that time. And someone else says it's hard to hear through the speaker, sorry.
It is very hard to hear, folks. I'm not sure we can fix that for you at this moment in time, but this meeting is recorded and will be up with the link on Facebook for you to hear later. I apologize for that in advance.
The recording's not going to be any better.
No, it actually is. I don't know
Is
why.
it?
The recordings are crystal clear, but I guess when you're live, it doesn't transfer well.
It also has to do with how the settings are set for what type of.
It says that they can hear Mr. John, but.
I think everybody just has to talk up.
There's a motion at the table. Do we want someone to second that?
Mark, can you make that motion?
Jennifer?
Yeah, in the interest of time, the motion is to have the board members, because everybody can email me, put together 3 courses of action to address this problem, and then we'll vote on which course of action we want to do at the next meeting, after everyone has a chance to review them all.
Or
Yeah.
discussion.
That's not exactly a motion, Mark. It's more of a discussion to grab quotes, really, and then we can discuss what's been found by management.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that
It's
leaves,
more of a task than a motion.
I think he really is referring to.
That's fine.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, Mark, you were trying to say to come up with a course of action to get the quotes, because we're talking about, do we want it to be only weekends, or we want it to be after hours, like John was suggesting, maybe a second one that we're doing? What is the protocol for the quote? In other words, what are we asking for? You know, basically, so we have some type of proposal that makes sense.
Well, exactly what we discussed is what we're looking for. Let's see what we get, have these so-called professionals quote on what we should be putting. And then we could pick it apart, say, we want more, we want less.
I did that with him. That's where there were certain members of our board and the lifestyle crew wanted to have a third day. But when I asked them about it, most of them said, we don't really need that third day. We just need 2 days. So, but I'll be glad to work with Jennifer on that if that's okay. To be sure she at least has the information that I've gathered.
So 2 things. Mark, are you okay with that just being a task for management for now?
Yep, that sounds fine to me.
JR, they do not have a deposit in this contract. They just have totals.
I was gonna say, I didn't remember, I didn't remember a deposit.
If they're requesting a deposit, they need paper that says what they need.
Just text them, let them know if you could send something over with a deposit. I still need something in writing. At
Please.
least we'll know, what's coming.
Absolutely, got to put it in the system and check.
So I had another question based on Patty's management report. When you got time.
Are you finished with it?
Well, yes, she still has the floor.
Yeah, so I thought you were still continuing.
I was okay with giving up the floor.
Well, we're still in that section. We have to.
We're gonna
close
make
out
sure the floor is
yeah,
clean, so
We have to finish.
we need to get her mic. Just give her a mic that she can hang on.
Well, I have a really good husband that's a really good speaker. Thank you.
Okay, I think we did, should.
Okay, now moving on to AppFolio, we've had a large amount of the community requests help for access for the process of AppFolio. Jennifer and I have received a lot of phone calls, a lot of people, but a lot of positive feedback from it. People like it and they're responsive once we get them through the system, but they see how easy it is, the work orders, the ARC.
They're coming in, that's for sure.
Wow, every time we turn around, we have so many more, which is great. Worker system has been the tool, yeah. The violations, I'm working on the violation letters now, so this way I can have I'm matching to the violations and the finding policy that we have. So everything's gonna be linked, and then I'm gonna be blowing up Mark's property. Mark and Tommy's property. I'm gonna use them as samples. So I'll be sending letters, so they're not done yet, but hopefully by the end of next week.
Do we, okay, do we have a number of suspected violations?
No.
Okay.
No, there hasn't been a violation done yet. What she's
Right.
talking about is getting the violation structure put in, because that folio is very automated. So once she does go do a neighborhood walk and put some violations, it just goes right through the process.
Sends out the first letter, sends it 3 days later, takes care of the follow-up, it's all of it.
Okay.
So the nice thing about it is it gives us nice tracking, and the board can look at the tracking and see where we're at with the violations as well. We did mail out one. We did mail out
3 or 4.
3 or 4.
Okay, so we currently have 3 or 4 already in the system that
Yes.
are.
So through that folio,
Yes,
does the board have access to those letters?
sure. Yeah. Board has access to everything in that folio at this point.
Someone is asking, is there a process to report cleaning or other facility work needed ticket system for residents?
Work orders.
Work orders.
Yes. Through the work orders, through the app folio.
Resident dashboard, work order.
That's all I have.
We actually effectively working so far.
Yeah,
Perfect.
it really is.
So a little bit side note, that's awesome. Yes, please email it out to the board, but usually before the meeting. That's
Right.
okay. If you can scan it or make it a PDF.
Okay.
Then I'll show you where to put it.
Perfect.
Put it in the public meeting notes.
Just like we have.
Yeah.
Okay, because I have it saved PDF, so I can send it to you. So I can fill it.
I'll show you where.
And now John has
Now,
questions.
John, that's it.
So I had a question about, there were several items at the very beginning of your report that required us to spend money. And we were talking about how she was going to spend this money. And I was gonna ask, is there anything in there that the board needs to vote on, given that we have a relatively low limit in terms of authorization?
What did I hear that's cost money? I didn't either.
The sagewood mulch, that's not, there's no cost of that. The Serica, the tree removal, but that'll be an email that comes out later when I have 3 bids.
I didn't hear anything else.
Okay, I just,
I mean, aside from, of course, the tree.
The one that fell.
Right.
yeah,
We're gonna
And
get
that's it.
the
well,
quotes
it's
for
okay.
that.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
That's okay. I'm not allowed to
Thanks for the
spend money yet.
clarification. Appreciate it.
Okay, committee reports.
Well, okay, I'll go first.
Lady
Um,
first.
So right now, I think we have it scheduled for the, crazy.
This meeting is being recorded.
I'm doing the other one. It's marketing.
Oh, yeah, are we back?
Sorry, folks, we lost internet there for a moment. We're back.
All right, now to the fun stuff. Social committee, we have an event currently, trucks coming on the 25th. And what we were thinking of, I'm gonna plan a meeting probably next week.
25th of what month?
September, I'm sorry.
Pretty sure it's 24th, but hold on.
This Saturday.
The 24th, okay, I'm sorry. I read.
I have one other thing to add to that.
Okay, cool.
So if we move the location of food trucks from the pool to here, we don't have any signage that says here. So it's either we keep them at the pool or we spend another $300 getting signs.
Okay, well, the only reason, part of the reason that come here is what I was thinking, doing a game night and trying to do something that has a little bit more of adult feel, that maybe people from Encore and, you know, maybe a little older crowd might want to come, maybe have some things for the kids outdoors, but if the idea was maybe like do like almost like a casino night or a game, some sort of game night that would be attractive to slightly older crowd. So that won't work if we do it over there because there's nowhere to put anything.
I like the idea of doing that. The question is, we have to go out of us.
Remember, we're getting it from rentals and we have quite a few this month, so we do have money in the rental income this month.
Okay, so how much? It's not expensive is the good news, I think, because we're mostly looking at, we have some pool tables, so that can become crabs. We have some tables, so we're just talking about putting something
I'm not
on.
worried about that. I'm worried about the signs.
Oh,
I
the signs.
I know the event's gonna be relatively cheap and that's in budget.
Yeah.
What we're questioning is another $300-some-odd expense on signs, event, which again, I think we need.
Probably if we're going to change,
Well-
and you said it once in a while makes sense.
Well, if we're gonna have events here, we should, can we have something generalized that says event here in Lake House?
Well, that's like the idea, have a set for the lake house, have a set for the pool area, which would be the two common places. We do have an event that might even go for Encore, we're trying to think about doing that too. So I just got a 30% off certificate from the sign company. Let's see what it costs us to make some signs up. I think it'd be $100, $300 to get a bunch of signs.
We have to do that like that.
And we
But
had,
however many
we had
signs
like
we have plus one banner.
9 or 10 rentals last week that came in. There's some money to spend on that.
So, yeah, so I would like to make, you know, if the game night is a success and people, it's popular enough, you know, it'd be nice, it's something we could do routinely. And that would give something other than just a kiddie event, which we've kind of done a lot of kid events, which is great because this is a lot of kids in the community. But I thought this would be something that we could add to it for the social committee. I think more people will be more interested into the social committee. And then again, they bring people from Encore and they'll see more value by coming over here to the lake house. And
Well, and I have been, heard the suggestion of even putting the food trucks on, closer to Encore, you know, where the barbecue area is over there on that street. Is that watercolor?
Yes.
Yeah. A couple of residents over there had said that they thought maybe, you know, at least one time, maybe trying it over there.
But if you are trying to do game night, it makes sense to use the pool house.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying to do it this time. I just maybe one of the times in the future, trying it over there.
So the thing with that, we would just need to establish, you know, as I said, a budget, how much is, you know, available and how much, you know.
Do you remember how much we spent last time on one? I swear it was like 325 something.
On signs?
Yeah.
Signs, it's about $300.
Yeah.
It's about what I spent on the election signs. It's about $300 a
Yeah.
pass.
Absolutely.
So what I want to do when I go to the committee is kind of get a list. I might see if anyone wants to donate anything to the games supply, and if there's not, we'll make a list and then put that in for approval.
Did you want to make a motion to approve?
Yeah, a motion to approve, let's just say 400, approximately 400, depending upon what we need, or any games that we need to purchase for the setup.
Let's just do 400 for the purchase of the sign.
So
You already have
wait,
your
wait.
budget for
You already have
Can
budget
I
for each
just-
event. and we already-
Oh,
I'm just worried about whether you have a rental already here for the 24th. Do we? Have to go look.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
That's okay, is that your job?
Yes, but I didn't know about this until just now.
Are we starting to
Here's
know,
the for me.
are we starting to put this on the calendar?
September.
Because that would be helpful too. I mean.
I can look it up too.
What
I'm
time?
sorry, I did not check that.
Sorry.
Typically, we've done these at like 6
We
o'clock.
do have an event here at 5:30 PM.
I'm sorry, what
We
time?
do have an event here at 5:30 PM on the 24th.
5:30? Okay, so I would suggest that we contact the food truck company.
I can't read it. They literally just see it.
Okay, so then,
Why don't we table the casino night, so to speak, for the next event? And maybe make this event a,
so the other event that's coming, which I wasn't planning, this was going to be like a little Nerf war game out in the field for the kids. I was going to do like a stop and go one which is like shoot now and stop and whatever, and do a little kid thing, and then do like a Nerf war and probably in the other section. And it was supposed to be kind of just a fun activity for them to come out and socialize and just, you know, a little fun Nerf war. So that was the other activity. I suppose we could proceed with that one. It doesn't really have a lot of costs. We might, because a lot of it's bring your own stuff.
Why don't we do that? We'll have the food trucks at the pool for September 24th.
Yeah.
And we can put together a nurse board at the pool. And then we'll
start scheduling something.
schedule something on the calendar so she doesn't book it.
Right.
All right, so we'll tentatively make some little targets and little things for that setup, and we'll just tell people to come bring their thing and they can have some fun out.
So we don't need to spend money.
I was gonna say, do you already have the food trucks scheduled?
The food trucks are scheduled and we have signs for the pool house, so there's no expense in that particular event, except for whatever we need.
Well, the DJ stuff.
DJ.
Yeah,
When we're looking at, for future, unless it's your list here, there's also a couple things that might be interesting, like the adult beverage truck.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of cool, right?
Yeah. There's an adult
Yeah.
beverage truck, basically.
Adult, oh, yeah.
I was talking to the food truck guy for quite a while. He sent me a list of other vendors that they use for other HOA events. One of them-
Make sure that one's over here at Encore.
There's an alcohol one, there's an X throwing one.
And there's the, yes, yes. there's our margaritas.
Someone said the Nerf gun war sounds like fun, and then somebody put a liability issue.
well, it's, I mean, we could just call it field games, and.
They do it all the time. We've been to several years.
And people can bring that, and then should be scot-free. It's just, it's optional.
Just for reference to the liability issue, everything that we do that's extraneous at this point is a liability issue. That's why we have insurance and make sure the vendors have insurance as well.
I've talked
Make
to
sure you
our,
talk that louder, if they can't hear you.
I've talked to our insurance provider about it several times too. Stuff like that, he's never worried about. Movie night, potentially something, but again, general liability. covers it.
Well, that would be another thing, but I think this one it's a relatively not a lot for setup. Worst thing we could get, I mean, if we want to provide anything, it's not even like expensive stuff like targets and, it's not like. Yeah, so that we'll just go to and back to that plan, because I think that one, and then we'll do the casino plan of that casino night in, I guess, October probably.
Well, we'll talk about it on social.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least get a date down, so I can get the food trucks, we get the Jennifer.
Okay,
So block it off. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right.
So, John, have you put your social committee meetings on Appfolio yet?
I have not done that yet, but I'm gonna probably sit down and do that as soon as I
Okay.
can. So we'll do that probably tomorrow.
Let me know.
It's gonna become our Bible.
Okay, that's fine. It's a new thing we're now using, so we'll work on getting things all up on that. So, yep, but that's pretty much it right now. And I guess that'll give us more time to work out the things with the signage, so.
Thanks, Joanne.
Update on the Westlake fence replacement with hedges. We finally got quotes from Sunrise as of yesterday and this morning for the irrigation and cleanup. The cleanup is a little bit pricier than I was expecting, but not terribly. They wanted $2,100. I not originally put that into our budget because it was something we were already trying to do between the fences before we started this process. But it is in budget, and so I'd like to have that approved so we can move forward with the cleanup.
Is this one of the ones that are here?
It is kind of, sort of, no, it's not.
Is
No.
kind of sort, I see sagewood.
I had them earlier. but I
Yeah, I
forgot.
got them in the email that basically
Yeah.
it's just to cut back all the brush that's between the chain link fence and what was there before, and clear that all so we can get rid of the irrigation, basically.
What, okay, so you want to put a motion? Do you want to put a motion? for
Someone
this?
has to, yes.
Okay, so-
I can't.
Oh, okay, I guess I'll put a motion.
Man, I'd like to see the quote before we do this.
Yeah, so the quote's for $21.90. It's for the burn cleanup between the fence and the wall.
Okay, and this is, so we have, and this is within our budget.
Initially, when, from what I understood, that Heather was actually quoting this before we got to the point where we were going to remove the fence. So it's something we were going to do anyway, so it's in our maintenance budget. It exists in our maintenance budget, so it's nothing new. It's a little higher than I was expecting, but at this point, we're behind the timeline that I wanted to do this in, so I want to move forward with try to get it done, so.
So I'm looking at a quote here that says a quantity of 30 hours, but what's the rate at 30 hours? Thank you.
So they've got 675 linear feet. It measures out to be 712, just so you know. So you're not underestimating that.
And also include the disposal of everything outside. And we're also doing the fence line, trim on top, so we can have things for the burn.
Okay.
So,
Should be, the chain link fence and everything around it should be clear of all debris at that point, and including the wire fences between the private property and Westlake should be out there. One byproduct of removing that fence is the cows are coming over to our side to look at us every once in a while, which is kind of fun. But yeah, so once we get that clear, we can move forward with the irrigation. They did supply us an irrigation quote. It's a little pricey, and we'll probably get other quotes to see if we can keep them honest. If it comes out the same, I can tell you this much, I do know, not that I think the quote is great. PVC has gone up tenfold since we started doing things this year. So a piece of PVC that was $3 last January is now $30. So that's anything we do irrigation wise, you can buy copper cheaper, and I'm not exaggerating.
No, I get it. So the irrigation quote comes in at $5,442,
Yes.
and we'll get it bidded out by at least someone else to make sure the price lines up.
Oh, I forgot one thing. I meant to discuss. Going back, I forgot to mention about the yoga. Instructor.
Yoga classes, yeah.
That's okay. I'll come
Finish.
right back to it.
Okay, let's finish this one.
Do we have a motion on the floor?
No, we
Well,
don't.
we
So-
don't.
And Kathy's looking over it.
So Daniel, on this 30 hours, are you planning on is this
foreman, yes, ma'am.
foreman?
Correct.
For-
Foreman, and that also includes, prep the terrain for the photos coming.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
No problem.
So this is something that Westlake landscape committee is we're kind of pushing for?
Not really pushing for, it's
No.
just the next step before we can get those hedges planted.
Oh, okay,
It's
gotcha.
part of the hedge project.
Oh, part of that
That's what
project.
we're calling it, the hedge project.
Well, we do have to get that in place.
Has to happen. If anyone wants to come out there with some shovels and some rakes and things, let me know when they can. Not a problem. I'm busy. I'm sure you are.
This isn't.
It's 30 times 4 times 65. It's $65 an hour per file.
No, there's 30 hours
I know.
times 60. No, it's not 30 times 4.
Oh, hold on a second.
It's per body.
It's per body.
It's the same way.
There's 40, are you 30 min?
No, that's 30
I
hours.
30 hours, 4 men is taking 30 hours or 30 hours total with 4 men.
Crew of 4, 30 hours.
And this says 30 hours at $65 an hour.
And that would be 1950, correct?
So so 30 times 65 is 1950.
And then there's
The 300 is 2250.
So
anything, I'll put a unit pricing on it.
it's actually 65 comes out to be $78. Let's take this into it. Backwards calculate.
I'm not, he tells me it's $65, 30 hours plus $300, $2250.
Right, so he's not charging.
He's not charging me this is
You're
not,
arguing in favor of them.
that's okay. I don't want him, I don't want Tommy to sign something that's not
I
correct.
got it. Just saying, what your numbers come out to be 2250, your quote is 2190. Just saying at this point,
So,
we have a $60 variance.
Your quote's incorrect. Are you okay with it?
No, I'll put unit pricing. I'll put it down to unit pricing, that way for that. It is what we send it and it was.
So what I'm saying is if we approve this, we're gonna approve the price on this quote, not a dollar. So are you okay? with that?
That's fine.
you're okay with it? Okay,
So, Ching, we say
You wanna make a
$60.
motion?
okay. I move that we approve the Sunrise Westlake bean cleanup for $21.90.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh, sorry.
She said aye. Motion carries.
Thank you for double checking your figures.
Yep, thank you, Kathy. Okay, real quick, Johanna, are you ready?
Yes, so, so Amber, who did the yoga sessions, had reached back out to us. I think she sounded like she wanted to do once a month yoga, or, well, no, twice a month, I'm sorry. And, it was just kind of continuing from from summer and things, similar time frame. We're talking about possibly, going to reach back out and talk to her whether she wants it right at 8 AM and then do a shorter session and then do cleanup because they have to kind of leave by 9 for any rental situation.
I'm okay with her continuing yoga. I don't think there's any objection, we'll find out, but my question is, we've been here a few times after her. You know, how long does it take for her to get out of here?
I guess it's allotted an hour and 15 minutes, but they told me to come like 10 minutes earlier so she could set up.
Because and that's fine, the conversation is that she starts her classes now at 8. But if we have renters that start at 9,
Well, I've been to things and we literally had to clean up nothing. We were just like in and
just do
out.
stuff and get out.
Yeah, yes, pretty much you just pick up some mats and.
Do you think that that's okay? She'll be out by 9 or?
Yeah, no, as I was saying, what we could do, if there's any concern, if you let her know ahead of time, she will
Let us
be
know.
way past. she'll be plenty of time early out of the building, if that's the case. If there's no rush, you know. then-
Now, she currently doesn't pay for rental. I don't think she's had enough people show. up.
No, she's working on building it. She wants to do, well, one of the things I is just something a little more consistent. During the summer, we kind of had a few skip times, and that, you know, is a little harder when you're building, but we want to set a more consistent schedule, just do it twice a month, and, you know, and proceed that same kind of time frame.
You've been to the classes. Is
Yeah.
Your recommendation to allow her to continue doing it?
Oh, I think she's a great yoga.
Is your recommendation to allow her to continue doing it?
Yeah.
Free.
Yeah, well, right now, I don't think she's, you know, she's not really making much right now,
And in
and
the classes that you're saying, how many are attending?
there's just a couple, it's just a handful so far, so I think it's fine. If a couple of people want to come in here and do yoga. If it gets a bigger class, I might, you know,
The
change.
reason that I ask is that if she's making money, that's one thing, but if we're getting value-added service to the members, that's another thing entirely. So if it's got a good turnout, we're okay saying, keep doing it, because we want people to have the things that we can provide. If it's no rent, and that's how we're providing it, there's no money out of pocket.
Yeah,
That's the way I look at it. So it's what can we do to help her get the numbers up? That's the other thing. What can we do?
well, she just wants to have that room, because this is good interest. It would be nice if it's a little more closer to 8, because for some people getting, you know, she'll get in early, and
I'm
some
okay.
people make it there early, but some people like a little bit later, so that's kind of the thing
I'm
she's
I'm
doing.
okay with doing the 8 o'clock. We can now put posts out on that folio.
Okay,
Let people know. And probably push it more on Facebook.
okay, that's great. Honestly, if we just promoted a little bit more, you know, it was more of a rush when we
Right.
did it last time. This time, I think we have a little more time between, and if we can set that schedule and make sure everything's good to go, then I think we, you know, we'll see how it goes. If we get that number up, I'll let you know, and we'll go from there. These things, you can get the number up. She has people requesting it, and so we're hopefully that will happen. So,
I have a question.
yes,
What about insurance?
she's covered. We're
We
on
asked
her
her.
insurance.
So if someone gets hurt in this.
Yes, she has
We're named,
insurance.
she has named insurance.
Yeah, she had us as a lost payee on it.
So the other thing is, if we promote this as an event that we're not charging for, does it change our?
She charges.
She
We're charging
charges.
for it.
There's a small fee for
Okay,
her time.
a sponsored program by our organization. Do we have any liability, even though she's covering everything, but do we have a liability because they may turn around and if they get hurt, they'll sue us and her?
No, we don't. I specifically talked to our insurance provider over this with the yoga event in mind. So long as she had people on named insurance.
So,
That's the purpose for making sure that we're named on the insurance as a lost payee, so that we remove from liability from our own insurance. That's the purpose of it. So,
I'm sorry?
yeah, I was
Sure.
thinking if we get a waiver signed,
Well, she does all that. She takes care of that from her end, so we don't have anything to really do. The only thing that might come into an issue if we hit that, she hits that 10, because we have kind of an agreement with her that we'll charge.
what if they don't see that sign to click when they get out and they run into the door? No, just do- they gotta wait till next Friday.
Well, that's another problem, I
No.
think, because that really has nothing to do with yoga. So, but anyway, so that's, I do want to be able to respond to her and kind of get that ball moving.
John, short answer, we are covered. I spent a lot of time with our insurance guy and a lot of different questions for this kind of thing. And the answer
just
is always
because,
named
just to share my concerns around this.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
And so Johannan, I don't think there's a motion for that. We'll just continue.
We
as
already-
is.
we already-
Well, we can make a motion if there's no objection. I don't know if there.
There can be objections.
Well,
I'll make a
I
motion.
motion that we continue.
Wait, so
the
you're
yoga
asking for
sessions.
unanimous decision all of a sudden?
Well, it's kind of just a social, it's a question of using continuing the research. So I'll make a motion that we'll continue the yoga sessions.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
And your mark, motion carries. Okay, before we move on, I want to hand it over to Danny here, because he has some stuff here that is actually not quite on this agenda here, but we do need to talk about.
Tom told me with some of this estimates, so the format he used is a little different. So just to clarify, Westlake, it's 4 men, 7 hours and a half, and the disposal fee is 3. 7 hours and a half because an hour lunch, but we don't charge no way for that. It's just so it'll be a full day. That's what the numbers come out to be.
Always helps us to have itemization, because we do. check
Yes,
numbers.
I apologize. He helped me that day, and like, even I looked at it, oh, he did it differently, but the numbers are the same.
Okay.
It's a full day, 4 men plus disposal. That's just the numbers.
Okay, I'm looking at here, Danny, you gave me a lake house landscaping tune-up.
Yes, sir. There's a lot of areas in the front of the lake house that winter damage took over and those plants didn't come back. I propose we add more color to the lake house, agricolas, as, and there's a list. Just add color to the lake house and we just have all empty beds. And freshen up some of this construct that unfortunately the rain has just, pushed away.
Are you sharing?
No, he's like that. He's like that sometimes.
Only get it bits at a time.
So there's a lake house, Danny kind of briefly went over these lightly with me this morning, where you're bringing in the meeting. His recommended tune-up cost for the lake house is $3,887.50. Sure, I think it's a great idea, but I don't think it's budgeted for this round. We'll have to wait till 2023. Is that somewhat correct?
That's somewhat correct, but we can certainly put it on the budget. If you give us the estimates now, when we build a budget, I can make sure that they're included in it so we can move forward with them.
Correct. And this one is you.
How good are these quotes good for 90
Yeah,
days?
I was gonna say, yeah.
45 days, just because of where the economy, everything changes.
I don't think you heard me. How long are these good for? Are they good for
90 days.
I would be 45 would be the most.
The thing is, if we get a budget approved, it's not gonna happen until January 1st, so if I get a requote, which the problem we have with Westlake is, I keep having a requote, then prices change, I can't budget because I keep changing prices, so if you guys can lock something in for us for the first year, we can approve them, you can get them in your schedule afterwards, after we approve the budget.
Perfect. Okay.
So, yeah, so,
So let's mark this one as, budget constraint.
Irrigation drip on the top, yeah.
Pencils, who use those?
Some mechanical pencils, I love pencils. I'm sorry.
Oh, now I know. Oh, sorry.
okay.
So just to recap, new plant material for fence, we're gonna get this quoted. This is for the fence, right? Project to install zones for coverage on new plant material in place of fence. $5,442.
That's the irrigation quote, correct? That is it's already been approved to spend, but not in that quantity, the number's higher than expected. Okay, so we want.
You're gonna get a
We
new,
need to quote this and,
Yeah. an additional quote.
This quote covers a 2-inch valve
This is
and
an irrigation.
the pressure regulator and so forth needed for, and then a decoder plus 1,800 feet of trip line.
Get in, that's just-
Seems a little high for that, but that's just saying.
Charles did mention, he's not here, his mother's in the hospital, but he also mentioned it, going forward, just to make it so it sounds a little bit better, and just will you add a filter to that pump system, so the drip line does not clog up and no charge on the
I
filter.
think at our last meeting, we discussed giving us some pricing on that, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so when you get that to us, that'll be helpful.
Perfect.
Then you gave me irrigation wire path track and diagnose. This is an important one. This is for a problem that is happening at Sandpiper Crest.
Correct.
It's been down for a while now, so we're really looking to repair it
Act
quickly.
about correct.
The quote is for $1,927.50. And unfortunately, we kind of have to do this.
The good thing is we've sold a few houses in the last month, so that means we have revenue that we didn't account for coming in, which increases the budget
Okay,
and
so with this one,
actually
we're
reduces doing this.
talking about
So
now, this one,
I'm giving that information to the board members so that there is budget for this particular item. in San Public Trust.
this is irrigation for fish.
No. Ah, here it is. Okay. I'll let you have this one back. I actually have a copy.
That means-
So Hannah, do you want to see this?
Yeah, I think she has it.
So is there
Okay,
gonna be
one
an
on one.
adjustment to this? It says here, need to replace a possible 2 decoders. I don't know how much a decoder is. But if
$160
we have,
in most cases.
so if we only want one, we use this price?
I believe so. He instructed more or less on it just because of the time it takes to line those decoders with the valve tracker. So it just varies how long it takes. And he can go more into it when, if he needs to be, maybe set up a different meeting.
So the process of doing that for these decoders is that when there's a line break that they can't figure out why it's misfiring, they literally have to trace the line and figure out where it's broken. When they find the break, they can repair it. If they can't find the break, they have to run on the line, which is kind of a pain, but only running a pair of wires from the timer to the decoder area. Runs a digital signal to each decoder, so you can put as many on there as you like, as long as you've got a good line, at least one pair of wires coming in. So this is a bit of a challenge. It's time consuming and they don't even know where the line runs because they didn't put it in.
No,
So it's gonna work. Yeah.
I get it. John, in my opinion, no, the price will never go up. Could go up.
So can I ask a favor in the future? Instead of just having a total, can we please have a breakdown?
We would love to have a breakdown,
Yes.
materials, labor, possible extras, just. I know it seems like extra work, but it helps us make decisions.
I do it on mine. because
And
that was
that's
what
the
my
other thing,
thought
Dan,
was.
you could do a breakdown and you could also put, miscellaneous petty cash items or uncertainty, or we'll find out in the field. And you could put in a cost for $500, $200 for that and the board could approve it.
Lunch
And
is
then
not
you can
included in
line
that line, just so you know.
But this doesn't tell me anything.
Yeah, if anything, I'll go with Charles and we'll just put everything itemized. Understand everything.
So for my information, why are we doing this? What caused this to happen?
Don't know what the cause is. We know that they're not firing, so we've got zones that actually aren't watering at this point.
Well, we had a little bit of a deeper conversation where we believe it's a grounding issue.
It was like,
There was a lightning strike, and if the ground is not grounded properly at the correct distances, it'll go straight through to
Right,
correct.
so every so many feet on the line, there should be an 8-foot grounding rod, which it should be bonded to. And again, they didn't install it, so we're discovering this at this point.
and that's everywhere. It's not here, it happens, we're often that stuff. And again, we're in the middle of hurricane season, storm. And
We have digital products and lightning does affect it, unfortunately.
I asked the same question because this is a Sandpiper Crest property. It is brand new irrigation. Why isn't this under the builder? But I get it.
Is it something we can look forward to doing on a regular basis?
Yeah, I mean, we place decoders. I see this come up every couple times a year.
The actual controllers go bad. There's all, irrigation is great fun, right? I mean, it's just great fun.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not uncommon, but it is something that's always kind of, we've had the merger. We would have addressed this much sooner, but because of everything that's been going on, it's been on the back. We don't want the grass to die.
Luckily, we've had some rain, so it keeps it going. So that helps.
So I'll make a motion to approve the 1927-50 for the Dakota replacement in Sandpiper Crest. Can I get a second?
Well,
Second.
Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, we can-
Hold the vote for the other question, I guess.
this is a not to exceed, correct?
This is not to exceed. No.
It could be less, it's just depending on the time it takes to find the track, the decoder with the track.
But it's a not to exceed.
Correct.
So if it takes more time, not to exceed.
Kathy, if it exceeds, the check only goes out for 1927.
Correct.
That's why I specifically said that.
Not to exceed, okay.
Correct.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Someone posted that there's been one issue after another with this builder.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Whoever posted that, they are the worst builder. Absolutely worst.
We're not upset with them, that's for sure.
Okay. Sagewood paver install. I could let Danny explain a little bit. This is a project I started back with Heather a little bit. There is a big void in Sagewood where you kind of go in the fence to the left area before you get to the pavers we just did with the benches, and we're going to be doing mulch now. And the idea was, because there's always a big wash away there, you can pack it with mulch, it's just going to wash away. It's always a constant problem. So we had this quoted from Sunrise to get pavers installed. The idea here is, it is an 18 by 13 square foot space. They want to do crushed concrete will be installed as a base aggregate. Edges held together by concrete. basically a paver install.
And the benches will go on top. So that's where all.
And
around
benches on
for-
top.
Yep, easy maintenance, enough space for sitting, just.
Is that this
Is
place?
this
that-
the same place?
No,
It's next to it, but it's not the same.
it's not the
place.
same place. It is next. to it.
Patty, does this displace
It's
the donation of mulch?
I didn't know this was coming in, but I don't.
No,
this is
the
just
mulch,
the bench.
I wish I could explain it without looking at it.
No,
but-
I mean, a yes or no is fine with me.
No, it doesn't. There's a path that comes around over here. This is this big place over here.
Yeah, I know, that's fine.
Then there's a parking lot next to it. The place that we just did.
Right, so are we talking, where's that mulch going, by the way?
Here.
On the new space, okay, not the other space, got it. That's it.
It's already demoed, we just has, there's nothing been done to that area, it's like, it just looks like.
Great,
So the question is, I've looked at the price. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's a good idea. The total comes into $4,055. The question is it within Sagewood's budget to get done?
that's a larger number than I think we had for additions, but let me double check something real quick while I'm looking at it.
Or wait a minute.
Sorry?
If anyone's interested in my corporate drawing.
Oh,
Oh, that's a nice dog.
oh, can we frame them?
You can't.
Where's the smile?
You don't want to crowd? So this is what they did previously did. They're putting the mulch in.
So
This
the
is what they would put
Sagewood, okay, okay.
Okay.
We sent a big chunk of change with the grass and so forth. We just spent 14.9 on that, that we paid, and that's not in this calculation, so I'm just looking here. So repair $7,000 available. So yes, we have the money.
Okay. What does anyone think?
She could comment, we have to take out the tree with the still, how much is that?
I was gonna, there's some other stuff here that says Sagewood
Is that
too.
Good
a?
point. Good
I was
point.
gonna
That's a
say-
Sagewood tree, right?
We have a
Okay.
tree to
point.
remove, a couple of trees.
Well, can we look at that?
Oh, that's the same tree.
Oh,
So
just-
we have 6,500 for the tree removal.
Yeah.
That's the quote that we have in front of us as well.
Yeah.
So that's another problem. I totally forgot that was Sagewood.
So this would kill the budget.
Okay, so
So,
This
So
is
table for
probably,
next year?
so,
so I was gonna say, could this be put in the budget for next year?
Yeah, that's budget item for next year.
okay.
That's in my budget pile here.
And can we hold this price for next,
For 90
next year for 90 days?
360.
Give or take 120?
Well, the good thing about that price is those materials are already in stock. We have them at the shop.
So you're not having to buy them. and get the new
Correct.
Prices, great.
Yes, sir. So that's perfectly cool.
Okay, so
I like the
budget
easy
for
buy.
20.
Okay, so the tree, long story short, tree fell on a residence. That seems to be getting repaired by her insurance. The rest of this tree needs to come down. So the quote from Sunrise to take that tree down is $6,500. I'm recommending that we get a couple more quotes before we actually vote on this.
And that's just because of the size of the tree and because of that. It's just more work to avoid.
I'm understanding the quote. It's not a problem. It's just, we get, dealing with HOAs, it's common practice.
Nope,
Because
I
then
understand.
They come in at 6,000, I go, Danny, maybe you could fix it.
Okay, perfect.
Our job is to save the association money the best for it.
Those are actual pictures of it. I took it. It's that.
Really, they're actual? I thought they were.
So if anyone has any objections, I'm just gonna mark this as, need more quotes and pass it on.
Right,
All right,
and let Patty get a couple more quotes.
I think I received something, an email today from somebody. so.
I'm going to segue into the next steps so we can get you out of here.
Thank you.
You've given us some information about some warranty repair work. Did you want to just give us an update on that?
Yep, so the update is for the villas, they're 100%, we triple check all irrigation, meaning going forward, availability for numerous to get water will be on the residents, they decide if they want to get water on them or not. Being said, any sod prior to now that has died, we're gonna replace, because some of those irrigation systems were not up to par. So we're reliable, so we're gonna take care of those. That's what's on the list highlighted. That's for the villas. We're gonna replace that on the warranty. That grass did not make it, unfortunately, we're gonna replace. Everything else on the list is making it, it's thriving, it will come back. Okay, same thing for Sagebrook.
All right, so let me make sure I understand. I mean, there are irrigation problems. We've discussed that. We've also discussed some remedies that you're working on, right? So,
Yours is right here.
the big problem is that we have, for people in the room that haven't heard this, we are liable for, as per charter, to take care of the landscaping without the ability to control the water. That's an ongoing problem for us, and it's going to continue to be. So we are proposing to try to centralize the sprinkler timers on a program at some point that we're going to try to quote, and I need that quote for budget season.
Correct.
Not 3 months from now, I need it like. as soon as
Yeah,
possible.
Charles, yeah, I've told Charles to have it ready for the next meeting.
Because that will help them be able to manage this the best way and put some sensors in so it doesn't get overwatered, or if a leak breaks out, we can turn it off automatically, which we can't do right now. The homeowners have problems with their sprinklers. It basically affects the one lot and the grass goes dead and then we have to pay for grass again. So that's kind of the goal here. I think it's great that you're doing the warranty repair, and I appreciate the fact that it may not have directly been related to the sod itself. So thank you.
No problem.
And thanks for the update on that.
And you're correct. I've never been to the community. You're right that every year we replace sod, but that's the issue, correct? That is- Yeah.
Nor have I.
So this, the system is supposed to be, this is for Sagewood.
Yes.
correct? Just wanna-
Well, two different, one's for the villas and one is for
So
the.
there's one, so this is two separate processes. One's for Sagewood and then one's for.
If I may interject, we're mixing issues.
Yeah.
So these two that we're looking at here, this is work already done. They did a sod install for Sagewood and a sod install for the villas. Daniel's gone through, checked everything. It looks like for Sagewood, we have 5 units that are going to get sod replaced, that was already replaced, but died, and they're meeting up to their standard of warranty, just as we discussed at our last meeting. So to those homeowners that are on listening, hopefully, yes, your sod's getting replaced.
Do you want me to list these in the minutes or no?
I think we can refer to the document and attach it as part of it. It's fine.
Well, are we gonna attach this?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
Can you send that to us in PDF?
Yeah.
If there's anybody else that needs to be on that list, add them to it. I'll happily go over there and we'll update that list and get that replaced.
My house is right over here.
Same situation with the villas, 4 units are getting sod replaced. Replaced where?
The other item I was referring to is a remedy for the problem later.
Sorry.
That's all.
Yeah, we have another problem. We need some
They're
quoting
the
from them
same.
on. It's
Yeah.
basically, it's not a popular, you're going to hate that we're talking about it, but the end of the day is we have control over your lawns, we don't have control over your water, and it causes a problem. And it's for a much later discussion, folks. We're just getting quotes to have centralized location where we do have control of the water. Each decoder, we know what's broken, when it's broken, what went off, when it went off, and how much water was used on the property.
Yep, that's exactly
There's
right.
a comment that that's good on the sod replacement.
Yay.
Okay, anything else? Danny,
Everything's good so far.
you guys are free as a bird. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming, guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we'll see you at the next Wednesday meeting on time.
Yes, ma'am, I apologize. We'll do. Yeah, John will join me and it's gonna be something with a lot of these things.
Okay,
Perfect.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have old business, but we could skip by it. We have tabled items unless someone wants to give me money.
No.
We'll just go right Uh,
You just want me to say that.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right, new business, sandpiper decoder repair. We've already talked about that. And we proved it. We're good. We have a misallocation of legal funds here.
I'll explain this to the best of my ability. When we had our previous attorney, prior to the one that we have now, we paid him to collect past due dues, a stipend up front. And then when he got paid, he would pay us back and we would take it into legal and out to legal as far as the ledger line goes. So let's give you an example. Someone owes us $300. He charges us $1,000 up front to go after it. When he picks up $1,300, he gives us $1,000 back and it's a wash. Of course, if we don't collect, he gets his $1,000 and we never get it back. not a good system. That's why we changed. However, when those $1,000 came in, they were not posted to legal, they were posted to the individual's accounts, giving them a huge credit, some up to $3,000.
Individuals who were delinquent in the first place.
So they haven't paid a penny since the delinquency, and they're chalking away at this amount until it gets to zero. And we have several examples that actually waited till it got to zero and then started paying us. So they know they had the credit. It's not like they're oblivious. There are some that are oblivious, and I promise you, because they're making regular monthly payments in addition to the credit. At Folio, as soon as you open it up, it shows your balance. So now everyone knows they have a big credit and it's out there. The big thing is that should they have the credit, what are we going to do about it? It requires auditing everything from Friedman, which is the attorney. And we're asking for the source documents on what their breakdown was, so I can see how it was supposed to be applied. But I promise you, there's probably in the area of about $100,000 in these fees in our accounts that we have not collected dues for. That starts to explain the discrepancies that we're having with funding, because with that money in our account, we would be talking about budget issues this year.
Let me ask you a quick question. You said 100,000. I put on here 35 to 40 last I talked to you, but is that 100,000 still available, or 30 to 40 still available, the rest spent?
It's 30 to 40 of the credits that was put in that I found thus far. As we start looking forward, and Jennifer, I found much more than that. We found all kinds of different things that were posted funky. If we go backwards a step and you think about this, take the 30 out and put it into legal. They owed us that 30, but then they technically haven't paid us anything for the months before that, so now it doubles it. So basically, the problem with that is also there were late fees and interest charges and so that should have been acquired. The big problem is, how do we recover from this? And I can certainly audit the accounts and put them back to where they should be. That's not a problem. How do we explain this, and what policy do we set? And that's what this whole discussion is about for what we want to do. There's a couple different things that have been talked about just briefly. The first one is set them back to zero and say everyone's at zero, at this point, and you start from this point, then we'll never collect what we should have seen in the first place. The other thing is go after them. So set it back to where it should have been. They now owe us $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 that they have to pay immediately. The other thing you could do is set them to zero and go after Associate, because it's a gross misallocation of funds.
So
That's what I'm in favor of.
yeah, sorry.
That's what I'm in favor of.
I was going to double down.
Pay for it.
I know it's a very unpopular opinion, and I'm sorry for it, but if we were a bank, the bank accidentally deposits a check into your account, they go get it. They tell you about it later.
It just happened to us with that
It happens.
credit card. Remember, we talked about the credit card for the previous board that didn't get paid, and we opened up the bank account, they took it straight from us, so out to the account.
So I'm in favor of doing the audit, going in there, getting what's still left and marking them as a negative as whatever the dollar amount is, and we'll deal with the fallout one by one.
I second that. I think if people owe us money, we need to they need to owe us money. I don't think they should not pay their bills. I don't think that's fair.
Can I be the devil's advocate here just for a second? I know John's going to be too, because we think it's similar to this. So we set it back and we told somebody they owe us $1,500 because of a discrepancy that was caused in the books. And they'd say, well, why didn't you catch it before? I mean, how come you guys didn't see this? Who's paying attention? How do I know it's right now? They start going on and on with these questions. We're going to have to deal with the fallout of that. Then we have legal costs because they're going to sue us because we have inaccurate bookkeeping and so forth and so on. Starting to see the fallout?
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I don't think it's going to be that big.
The question on the chat is, what are the chances of recovery on each option? And I'm in favor of going after Associate. What if the home has been sold? Does it pass to the new owners?
No, it doesn't, unfortunately. If it's been sold, the money's gone. Now, we could try to do a small claims action towards that homeowner saying, look, you went with this credit, never paid us. Here's the discrepancy. We did an audit on it and try to go after it. It cost us $99 to file and we'll get a judgment, but you still have to be able to collect it.
Right.
Yeah, I think that the argument that ours would be the bank argument. The money was put in your account. It wasn't your money, but you spent it. So then we come back and get the money from you. It's the same sort of thing. The credit showed up in there. They knew, every one of them practically knew that they didn't want to do that. Some of them didn't take it, we get that money back. The people that used it didn't call us to say, I've got this money in here and we could have gotten it corrected.
Exactly.
So I think that we need to bill them for what they're due, pull the extra money out and go after associate for all of it, you know?
That's direct
And
mismanagement.
if we have extra left over, we'll settle up with a few people that did, you know?
Question is,
So-
how many accounts are we talking about?
So far, I've identified 37. I haven't gone through all 1,238 accounts, but it's not just 1,200, you know, it's 1,238. We've now made them two, so then we've got to separate them that way too. But we have some, there's one guy that Jason and I finally called Mr. 3000. That's what his credit is. Because basically, we have, most of them are into over $1,000.
How many would you say you've gone through to get to that 30, 35?
40%.
Okay,
I
so,
wrote down 37.
okay, so it's safe to say we might have 60 accounts, somewhere between 50 and 70.
There's also some other mispostings that aren't related directly to legal that should probably be discussed, we've seen. Where, like even one today that Jennifer identified, there's a check on there with a return check fee, and the check was never written by the homeowner, it doesn't exist. So I don't know how far the rabbit hole goes. Really, we have to audit every account.
So I think at this point, we should audit and get exact numbers and know what the cases are. It's hard to say without actually knowing that, I feel like, a little bit.
Right, but to spend the time on an audit to try to find out what we want to do would be kind of apropos at this point. There's going to be a lot of time spent. And if I get the bookkeeper's involved, it's going to be a lot of money spent.
So let me ask you, if we put in if we file a lawsuit, at what point are we gonna have to show what the actual number is?
Pretty much when they file the lawsuit, you have to show mitigated damages at that point.
But if we give them the best number, somewhere down the line, these things take months to get taken care of. So if we just keep fine tuning it, coming up with a final adjustment later on, we should be fine. And yet it allows us to get into the process.
Right, I agree with that.
Are you talking about associate lawsuit?
Yeah.
So in addition to that though, I mean, we still need to, you know, obviously we can go through the big ones out of the gate and, you know, try to contact the homeowner and say, hey, this is what happened. We can certainly start doing that process right away. But realistically, when I go through, and it's hard because without the source documentation, which is one of the things we've been arguing about, like right now we're scanning in checks as we get them and putting them on their accounts and then putting in a positive checks in the NAS drive so that we have a reference if something falls apart and we have to rebuild it. I don't have any of that data. I don't have anything to rebuild it from except for the numbers they already put in and find out that it looks fishy because it doesn't balance. If that makes sense. So it's just a keen set of eyes hoping we find all this stuff. That's fairly scary. If we can get the stuff from Friedman, which I know that George has already tried to do, that makes it less scary. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, we need something to source and base this off, because this is, you know, this is money. So I still think if we're gonna go after anybody, we're gonna have to audit and make sure it's
No,
accurate.
that's going to happen.
That's
And
true.
It's two different things. Another conversation is going after associate, that's gonna happen. I'm certain of that. They have negligence and they have completely neglected funds in our case. We've lost dozens of money. This is just one case. Costing the tune of $30, $40, $100,000. They have a few different cases. The question here is, what do we do with the balances that are in there now?
that's really what's on the table. What do we start going through them and start billing the homeowner? Don't talk about associate at the moment because we'll keep track of the numbers that we change so we can go after associate eventually.
So, okay, are most of these in the, so how many are in the? It would, I think it'd be easier. What are the amounts like? Were
There's
we looking at how-
$171,000 in prepaid accounts that don't exist.
A lot of money.
So it's someone, but it's not small change. And are we talking about forensic audit? How,
Yes.
what does that cost?
If I hired an accounting firm to do it, $20,000 probably, give or take a touch. If I enlist the finance committee and people that have eyes that can do this, it doesn't cost us anything but time, but it's a lot of time. And that's probably the way we're going to have to go because we don't have $20,000. It's tied up in this. literally.
Does that stand up in court?
Sure, of course it does, as long as I have source documents. If I can prove what we say, and we also have a CPA's eyes to look at it, which we do, pretty much it'll stand up to anything. The only thing they can prove is show me that the credit didn't exist. I can't. That's why the Freeman stuff becomes so important.
Also, for a homeowner to get such a credit in their account, they would have to prove that the check was written.
Right.
They
How did you-
themselves would have to have the burden. of
Show me
proof
some
that they actually did it.
documentation of how you got $1,000 credit overnight and just spent it. Show me that. Just like we recently had a homeowner that wanted a credit that was given by Heather, but I had no record of it in C3 or ours. And I sent him an email saying, if you got an email or something I can go on, because really I'm grasping at straws. It was given to him and I did give it back to him, but I also made sure that he realized that there will be no forbearance at this point because he was late to start with and he waited 5 months to solve the problem with Heather to start with, which in my opinion is not acceptable. 60 days I'll give you for, I missed it the first month. 5 months and then want it back? Absolutely not. Now, those are some of the issues that we've seen. We've seen lots of late fees that weren't charged, that should have been. We've seen lots of late fees that were charged and credited back. There's thousands of dollars in adjustments that have been done without authorization. Now, I'm not expecting the property manager to ask us on every case, but I would expect documentation to show why they made their judgment, which is what we're starting to do at this point. We're actually putting notes to say, this is why we made this decision. So I've spent almost a solid 2 weeks trying to make sure we had a path going forward that can be audited from anybody, not just the person who did it. So that's really important. By the way, I got to tell you guys on the record, this is a sidebar. These two ladies in the crossroom here, which is Patty and Jennifer, have really stepped up and really spent a lot of time with all my little idiosyncrasies and little things that I wanted them to do. And they've done an awesome job. So I wanted to give them that credit because they're really doing a great job. I came here today and said, what do you got for me? And they said, you got it covered. I'm like, oh my God, I did something right. You know, so.
I have a slight suggestion on this one. I say slight because I know quarterly payments coming up, but the truth is the balances will still sit there, not going to move very fast. So we have some time, not much. Question is, do we want to vote? Do we want to put in a motion and vote to do something about this now? Or do we want to say, yes, let's start the forensic process. Let's see where it sits in a month, what kind of actual numbers you have from that process.
I think what I was after, just for my argument, is I'm just looking for a policy. Do we go after the money from the homeowners? That's what I'm asking.
Then we make a motion.
Well, I think we should, yeah, well, we'll make a motion following the forensic, we get this whatever source documents you need. Go ahead and proceed to go in after anything. I guess this at this point is that they owe.
Yeah, in some cases, some people actually did blindly pay their monthly and they've got a credit when it comes off, it'll put them to zero and they'll be fine. There's only a few of those, but there's many of them that have a large credit that just haven't paid it since.
Well, I think we should remove the credit and contact them, of course, and let them know that they need to be paying their dues. I think that has to happen. We have to establish, people have to, you're living in this community, you have to pay your dues. I think.
It's a,
How easy?
it's a dual
Yeah.
track. One is take the credits out of there that they spent
Yes,
and bill them for the fees that they haven't been paying.
sure. The
That's
first
fair
step,
to
for
every
sure.
homeowner in this community,
Exactly.
right? And then we put the rest of it apart and we go after associate for the whole thing, every dime.
And everything else.
So what I wouldn't do is bother with late fees and things. I would focus on getting the dues.
The dues.
So at that point, because I think we have an obligation to tell them, and they failed to do so, but we're telling them now that they owe and they need,
Okay.
this is their opportunity to
So
pay.
let me show you how the rabbit hole is going to go, because basically I can reverse it and say you owe this $135.50 for 4 quarters or for $12.50 or whatever it was last year. You owe us this money. But they've been late all this time, if you really want to call it that.
Well, then if it goes to court, we'll go through that next stage.
I personally would,
There's interest in late fees.
it's a bad hole to be in, but I personally would say it makes the mathematics even easier and the search easier. Just go after the money.
Okay.
We could forgive the late fees
Okay,
that would have,
that's-
should have,
so
could
that needs to
have.
be in the motion, so I'm trying to tell you. that we're
So I'm saying go.
That's
my
it.
motion-
Go after the misallocated funds.
Yeah.
So someone said, I'll throw out my personal experience error out there a few months back. I accidentally sent my mortgage payment of $1,500 to associate for a monthly fee. I contacted Heather immediately about the error. It did have to wait 30 days, but she did correct it for me.
Well, that's good.
So that won't be in this list.
That might not even, that probably isn't even, yeah.
I mean, if there's any concern and stuff at that point, once we contact them, we can address that.
Right.
And
The issue is,
But-
I think, is just bill them what they're due. And if they come back and talk to us, like we got this one guy has a hardship case, we'll work on it. Because the key is getting the money not punished, if we can do that. But everybody's gonna have a different case. And so if we just go ahead and pull the credits out of there that shouldn't have not been in the first place and go after the people that have used them for the amounts that they've used them for, then if they come back and say, well, I've got a hardship, I can't pay this or something like that, then we'll work with each one of them separately, even if it's, depending what it is. You know, if we're talking about collecting $1,300 but giving up $20 on late fees, you know, that's a no-brainer, you know.
Yeah.
But we can't anticipate that they're all gonna have the same issue.
So
And they may take
What it
advantage of it
does is
somehow.
it shakes the tree, and those who actually have a legitimate reason will fix.
Right.
Those who don't have to pay.
So I'm gonna make a motion to pull the credits that are existing, have the financial committee go through the audit process. And we will go after the homeowners directly for all misallocated legal funds
Used.
that have been used.
We're waiving late fees and interest.
And we're gonna waive late fees and interest.
Thank you.
Okay, and going after this allocation.
Misallocated legal funds.
I would go ahead and, that's a bargaining. That last comment
The last
about,
comments are bargaining chip, in other words, we charge it, and we're upset, we'll say, well, we'll waive the late fees and legal, and interest, if you just pay the thing.
I say, the only reason I say no to that, John, is it just gets messy. And
It's
they're gonna
gonna
hear
be
us as a
messy.
bargain chip.
It's gonna get messy.
it's gonna be messy, and the fact is, if we can get them to focus on the late fees and interest, because the biggest number is the other
Yeah.
side of it, then we have a bargaining chip here that they don't know about. We agreed to do this, and so therefore, given the circumstances, you know, we have some flexibility, but I don't want to put that on the table first.
Okay, so the question right now, are we waiving that if they pay up immediately or make effort to pay?
The question is, the motion, are we going after late fees and
Interest.
Interest,
or are we not?
no, let's just, you already put it
I
out
said
there.
no. Okay.
I'm gonna
Okay.
second that
I'm
motion.
gonna second and
Or
let's,
Kathy, if you will.
All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
One's opposed, motion carries.
Okay, there is another part of this conversation that is still misallocation. In multiple cases that I found when I started going through these credits, there are multiple people that have paid or overpaid because they were collected on both ACH and credit card from Town Square simultaneously.
So this is overpaying.
So we
Technically,
were
that,
overpaid. We collected twice.
we collected twice through Town Square, yeah, basically. There's a handful of those. I can't identify how many. I found 6 so far like that. Unfortunately, one of them is my next door neighbor. But the reality is they have a real credit that is owed to them. And here's the issue. We could let it ride and tell them, you've got a credit you don't need to pay for the next 2 years.
2 years.
So that's really what we're talking about here. If that's the case, this is the issue. At the end of the year, when we do our 90% test, the over income falls into taxable income.
Can we just give the money back?
Yes, we can,
Reimbursement.
because otherwise we're gonna
Yes.
lose 30 cents on the dollar if it
Yes.
goes over. Now, it may not go over because we have discrepancies already, but it could. So it'd be better to give them the money back.
yes,
I'm in favor of reimbursing any overpayments. I will make that motion. Anybody that has been
It can't be
overpaid.
allocated to this year. you need to be clear on that, because I want the money to stay in the account that'll cover this year.
Okay. All right, whoa.
In other words, you
So-
owe $500 by the end of the year,
Okay,
and you've got $1,000 credit. I want to give you $500 back because you're covered, you need to pay me the rest of the year, you're covered.
So I don't understand why this falls in the taxable income, because what we're doing is correcting something that should be in the tax exempt part of our business. Because we collected or paid back something that is in another period, but it was included as tax exempt revenue. Why should we then, when we're correcting that, include it in a separate category saying it's extra income?
It's not
It's not
extra
really.
income. It's not. When you do the calculation, you put in the total income that you had for dues. Let's say it's over by 20%.
Yeah.
And we have to prove that 90% of that total amount we collected was spent on primary purpose,
Right,
and I can't,
why?
because our budget is way less than the 20% overage.
But by keeping track of the payments that we've made and monies that we have collected and showing that they are part of that top figure, because there is a multiple year impact on this where we have misstated in a prior year, but it doesn't come in this.
But we're not
special
misstating in a
category.
prior year, we're misstating in a future year. We're
That I
paying-
don't understand.
Because it's prepaid assessments. It's not income. It's not income until it
Are
applies.
these people that we're paying back?
If we pay them back, it becomes, wipes clean, but right now it goes to the prepaid assessments. Prepaid assessments is not dues until it's applied to the dues, right? So it stays in that category until it's a liability.
so, okay.
Well, but it's a liability that falls within the normal operations, not
not.
the special.
It's not, because it falls into next year's operations. We won't spend it this year. It's not
But
possible.
it's for the same thing. I don't, I understand if we rent this place out here, that's extraordinary income. It's non-related to our business.
We're not talking about exempt income. We're talking about non-exempt income. We're talking about exempt income. Don't even talk about the non-exempt. When you have exempt income and it exceeds, you cannot pass the 90% test, they tax you on it. Even if it's exempt income, they still tax you on it if you can't prove the 90% test.
Oh, okay.
All right, so
We're only
I
exempt.
think that we ought to talk to the accountants about that, because
Okay.
I believe that from that standpoint, and we don't have to necessarily make a decision tonight on that, but I think that, I just think we have to look closer to that and make sure that we treat it in such a way that it falls in a category that we don't have to pay taxes on.
Jennifer, I think you had some comments.
Yeah, the one is, doesn't the HOA place liens for late or missing payments was one of the questions. And is this why and this is why I don't like auto pay setups.
Okay. Does the HOA place liens? Typically not. Yes, but liens get placed all the way at the end when you get through a final judgment.
So we first go after collections. If they unsuccessful collections, they actually, file with the court to get a judgment on it, then place the lien. So it's the last step.
And I think the auto setups, that what you're talking about where the overpay is, that they probably had money coming from estoppels and then they were making pay. Was it that way or?
No,
Okay.
the example I can give you is my next door neighbor actually paid by credit card and by ACH twice every month for the last 2 years.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, so this is because he put in two auto payments for a single amount each month, as opposed to doing the auto pay where we're saying just pay the balance, because it would never take more if you just paid the balance than what was due. What he did was say, sure, give them more, it's okay. That's a mistake. It's a mistake.
Okay, so we do need to reimburse. Yeah,
I think John's argument is that he thinks that, and I did talk to the accountant last week about this, but that he'd like to, maybe talk to them about whether or not that 90% test affects taxes. If it doesn't, should we let it ride? Just keep it in your bank account.
Okay, well, here's an ethical issue with that. We should give the person back the money regardless of how it affects us. That's how I feel about
Yeah,
it. I
that's-
think it's not ethical to
I agree.
keep money that is not owed to us. No,
I
we're
agree.
not. I
I
think we should
agree with
not.
you. What I'm talking about is the way we treat it on our tax return. Because if it's not in the category that's the 20% usage, we have to pay taxes on that. Okay, and so what
No,
I'm
that's
trying to
not,
put,
that's not correct. If you don't meet the 90% test, everything over the 90% test gets taxed, whether it's exempt or not. That's what the 1120H form says in the
so,
first two lines.
so one of the things that I'm proposing is that we talk to the guys that prepare the tax return to see how we can stay within that 20% test.
And
Well-
Even if we have to follow minimum
Yeah, I
returns for
understand
3
that's an
years.
accounting issue, but we still need to give the person
I
back
was
the
just
money.
gonna
Regardless-
say-
regardless of-
That's not the issue. That's not the issue. We
Yeah.
agree with you on that.
Yes,
We said that from the very beginning.
yes, I
What we're
understand.
trying to do is keep our
give the
costs
money
down.
back, there's a couple issues you gotta worry about there. The amount of money we have to get back and whether we have the money to get back.
Well, I was gonna say,
Is
we
there,
could make a motion to refund any funds that are going to be over the 12-month period at the end of the year. And we don't need to address that until December.
Okay? I'm okay with that.
so, okay, how is this motion gonna read? I just need to,
I'll make a motion to refund any overpayments that are outside of this fiscal year. And we will look at refunding those overpayments in December before tax. Can I get a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
So the question is, so if we're missing plus or minus 70K from the incorrect allocation accounts, are we now going to be in trouble with taxes also?
No,
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm sorry, what was it?
So if we are missing plus or minus 70,000 from the incorrect allocated accounts, are we now going to be in trouble with the taxes also?
no. The way the taxes work for the HOA is that we have to prove 90% of what we take in has been spent for the purpose of the HOA. That's for the exempt income portion of it only. If we can prove that, which we have every tax season, because we've actually been running deficit budgets, as you know, it's not a problem. Even if we take it in at that point, that money is obviously allocated to our deficit that we're already in. So basically, I think it's going to wash. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't think it's going to affect taxes at all, that portion.
Okay. We have a few others we need to get through here, folks. Let's try to push this along as much as possible. We're gonna be here for another 2 hours. We have a hardship deferment policy. The idea here is quite simple. I wanted to be able to task Patty to put together a hardship deferment policy with some simple guidelines that hopefully we could agree on quickly. Basically, it's exactly what it is. Someone can't pay, lost their job, whatever the reason is. We are allowed to freeze and forego any interest and late payment fees for X amount of time. This used to be just at the whim of the CAM, and she was able to kind of do however she felt fit. We don't want to do that, which is why we actually want a deferment process. So the question is, A, what needs to meet the qualifications to be in a deferment policy? And B, how long are we allowing to defer for? My gut instinct reaction, just throwing my 2 cents out there, is 3-month deferment max. And I'm not really sure what qualifies.
Hey, Tommy, this is Mark.
Mark?
Hey, Tommy, I think we let the resident determine if they're having a hardship or not. I don't think we can put quantifiable the measurements on that. And I would argue for a 6-month grace period. Because I mean, if you don't, 6-month grace period, that gives them two payments to forego, basically. And
Yeah, service areas are monthly, Mark.
service areas?
that's fine. That's fine. I think 3 months is a little short. If you're truly having a hardship, you're not going to get out of it in 6 months. So give somebody 6 months.
Telling us that we let them determine the hardship, so how do we know they're truly having a hardship?
I mean, what are you going to ask for tax returns? Like you're going on somebody's honest. It's not like they're not gonna owe the money. They're still gonna owe the money down the road when they get their stuff together.
I have a suggestion. Suggestion is this. You could allow them to, you could allow the resident to determine what the hardship is. Well, no, that still doesn't work. That just doesn't work, Mark, because I could just call them tomorrow and say I'm having a hardship.
Well, I mean, I
What
do,
we could do is,
yes,
we could allow the CAM to determine the hardship with the max deferment rate of 90 days. If the deferment needs to go out any further than that, past the 90 days, she needs to bring it to a board meeting, and we need to talk about what the issue is with the deferment, why was it deferred in the first place, whether we agree to defer it any longer.
What about chronic?
And I was gonna, before it even goes, I think we need to look at their payment history
Yeah,
also.
exactly.
Before we even address
If you've been delinquent and not paying, this is not exactly a hardship, this is a lifestyle.
yes,
Somebody else agrees with Mark, 6 months is reasonable.
no,
Who says that?
If there's a say.
I don't agree with the 6 months. I think we should do it case by case. If this is a 6 month situation, that's probably must be very serious, and we really need to hear that to really make that determination, if that's appropriate.
Lady in the front.
In my opinion, working with patients, we do get asked hardship waivers from time to time. In my opinion, 90 days is enough time for somebody, if they lost their job, that's 3 months to go find another job. If it's an extreme medical issue, somebody had a heart attack or.
So case situation.
That's a special case. If it's just, a routine hardship waiver.
The reason I didn't want to
90 days
determine,
is plenty.
not to interrupt Heather, but the reason that I don't think letting them determine their hardship, there are certain categories that everyone thinks is a hardship. Illness is one of them. Death in the family could be one of them. Catastrophic failure of their home, fire, whatever the case would be, that's one of them. Those are things that are kind of things that we need to help people because it's beyond our control. But the,
Nice. Oh, maybe because they're clean, mine aren't clean. Or is it Scott? Yeah, for now. That's why I was gonna. All right, I will tomorrow.
Okay.
So
So
they were talking about
right
something
now,
else.
we're talking, it sounds like a lot of people agree with the more than 90 days to be
reevaluated.
evaluated with some leisure to the, I think we should leave
I think that
judgment to,
I think initial judgment should be the pattern.
I have some things on here.
Yep.
6 months in the financial field, need documentation. I say 3 months is sufficient. Someone said should be 3 months with a review at the point of further review with a considered extension. I work in the financial institute and we defer loans for 90 days with a stated hardship. If additional time is needed, it can be reviewed further. Compassion, if it's a true hardship, this bill is at least of their concern and they will be behind on everything.
Thank you. 100%.
Just a good comment section.
yes,
yeah, so.
thank you.
I mean, so I would agree with the motion that if we're gonna do a 9-day, if you feel, if we feel we need to get certain information from them privately within our, I think, all right, but I think it should be a case by case basis.
No, they all are.
Yeah, so, yeah, I wouldn't try to list out the case, what we think would qualify.
Oh, no,
I think that's
That's gonna be judgment pattern. She's gonna have that conversation and she'll make the comment.
okay. We'll just need a motion.
Okay, motion is that we create a hardship deferment policy that's going to state a maximum deferment of 90 days at the discretion of the CAM. Extensions can be provided once reviewed by the board after that initial 90 days.
Hey, Tommy, Mark here.
Mark,
Yeah, before we vote on this one, so I would like to emphasize that I think confidentiality should be a part of this. So if we're going to discuss someone's particular hardship, it shouldn't be at a board meeting in front of the whole community.
Somewhat true, Mark, except that the whole community is in front of a board meeting. We are allowed to publicly display everyone who's delinquent on our delinquent reports. You're part of a membership, and this is closed amongst all members.
More important is we don't have to use names. We can certainly say,
Right.
this, you know, Mr. X is this.
I'm fine
Right.
with,
And yeah, that's all I'm looking for is some sort of confidentiality. We don't call them out by name or address or any identifiable
I'm in agreement.
information.
Reality though is if another resident requests it, we must provide it. That's the only downside of that. It's not really hidden, but yes, I agree. The common please. Can I get a second on that motion?
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
Any opposed?
I have a comment before you close it.
well, I need to make sure I
The
get.
motion did not include the fact that we are going to look at past payment history. I'd like to say that. I know she will, but I would like to say that if possible.
Okay. Anyone have that motion? Can you read it back to me?
Yeah, hardship. Create a hardship resolution with 90 days for the cancer review. The discussion to include payment history.
Yes,
Payment
As
history.
part of the evaluation.
yes.
So just,
Discussion to include payment history as part of the evaluation. And then with the rest of it.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And just to be clear, we're approving the drafting of a policy right now, right? We're not approving the policy.
We're approving the draft of the policy. I just want to make the actual policy approval slick, easy, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, we'll make it a policy to make a policy.
Yeah, essentially.
So then, addressing the question that brought this up in the first place, we do have someone in this situation now. So what we're talking about is coming up with something that's going to happen in 2 more months, and he needs some help now.
At this point, everyone's got help this month for 45 days. So he was asking for next month. So no one's getting assessed anything to the 16th.
And case by case. This is what the real purpose of this policy. You know, if there's something in the now that Patty needs to discuss with me, we can make a judgment call, right?
Yeah.
This is more so for futures because we don't want it to be unknown and different for each individual case.
I understand that, and I understand that it takes some time to work these things out. I'm just saying, as our response to this particular homeowner who's already requested this, we've already put him off because we wanted to discuss the procedures.
Sure.
Should we authorize Patty to talk to him in more detail?
Patty, we don't even have to do that. Patty is authorized to talk to him. That is part of her job. So yes, Patty is talking to him. Get back to me with what you think is necessary for this one.
The reason this came up is because Patty was so forthright as to include me in that because she wanted me to look at the financial part of it. And I thought, well, geez, we don't even have a policy for this. It'd be great if we did. But I think we've already given him some, you know, told him that like I said, no one's getting anything until the 15th. He's not getting charged late for this month. And then if we gave him, he only asked for September, so he's not asking for a whole lot of room.
I just want to make sure that somebody gets back.
We will.
It's not. We got it.
She's been good about copying people too, which is great.
Okay, this is the fun one that's been on Facebook. Check processing fee. Do we want to start charging money to process checks because we don't like paper?
Can I explain why we don't like paper before you make this comment?
wait, why did I not see this?
Missing check processing.
So let me give you some background on this. We broke the accounts up into 2 individual accounts for service areas, which means that they have 2 accounts and 2 payments to make, which automatically that's easy to handle. When a paper check comes in and it's not the exact amount owed, or it's crossed between past and current, or maybe even prepayment, one check comes in, I have to deposit that check into one bank account and do a general ledger to move it to the other account because we're keeping the service areas separate. Mind you, that takes a bit of work, but more importantly, each check that comes in requires, would you say 3 to 4 minutes to post? So that's costing us time. Appfolio does all that work for you. Now, Appfolio has the ability of doing one-time payments anytime you want to make them, or monthly payments for the amount you want to say, or pay off your balance. You make your choices. But the reason that we wanted to do it that way was to try to prevent processing a manual check each time. which requires us scanning it in, putting it in the system, breaking it out, making a general ledger if we need to be, depositing it to the bank. That's all done automated. So we're talking about saving labor. That's the whole point of this, and accuracy. Okay, so the argument is do we keep going on the way it is? How many people have already onboarded for electronic? Actually, a good percentage, I'm surprised, but a good percentage of people have already done. And of that, maybe half of them have said, pay my balance off at the end of the month, which is great because it'll only take what's owed. It won't take any more, any less. So these double payment things go away. These overpayments go away. They can prepay still, but they can't, it just won't, we won't have the problems that we did in the past. They start mailing us paper checks, and we have an example today. There was someone that divided up their service area and their master into 2-week payments evenly for the whole month, and is mailing us 2-week payments broken into, little chunks of money for each one. That's a posting nightmare. And we're asking Jennifer to take on this task at this point to try to save some of the labor. So that's the reason for wanting to do it electronically. And I stand strongly on that only because it makes things more accurate.
I have comments that I need to read. So just give us ACH capabilities so that we can send electronic payments.
We have that. That's what the AppFolio is.
We've changed where payments are 3 times in less than 24 months. I don't think we should be required to use different auto pay every time we change these things.
I'm sorry, I don't understand that.
We haven't. It's only been once we've changed AppFolio from Town Square and Associates old ways. It only changed once.
Yeah.
So.
The next was no fee. The next one is we had it previous as doing via ACH saves you labor and achieves what you want.
Right. We have ACH. It's free. It's called eCheck.info.
That's ACH.
So,
Right.
Sorry, hang on, that's not true. That's not true. You're expecting us to put our bank account information into AppFolio, and then that will pull it from our bank accounts. ACH is where we send it electronically.
It's actually
That's what we
posted.
want.
Yeah.
But AppFolio doesn't allow that to happen. It happens at one direction only.
Right. I guess I hear what you're saying. Whether the terminology is wrong or not, we only have the capabilities we have. It's not like we're not holding back. Our only
I understand. But we had it previously. So all of a sudden, in a cost-saving process, we are now expected to pay a fee to do what we were doing before the 1st of August.
Yeah, and I understand. I understand, sympathizer. That's why I'm saying, without getting into why we're asking for a fee, let's just keep it simple. Do we want to charge a fee to process checks? We don't need to know why. It's do we want to charge a fee to process checks? It's so I hear you saying no, and
yeah, absolutely understand. I understand that. I do not want to write a check or have my bank send you a check. I would much prefer to make that electronic and be in the 21st century. Done as that. Open AppFolio up so we can send you transmissions, and most people will do it. You may have 1 or 2 stragglers who still send you checks, but I'm guessing 90% of the people would just send it via electronic.
And again, the only capabilities we have, the only ones, are e-check, debit, check, credit card, which both come with fees, or mailing a check. The only options we have. I don't have more.
Let me make another comment. If you do an ACH from your bank, it goes to my bank account, and I have no accounting for it. It has to go through our AppFolio for us to account for it. So it has to be a paper check drop to us, and we cannot do direct deposit to our bank account.
And that's fine. I didn't choose the system you chose.
Exactly.
Agreed. I sympathize with all that. But it doesn't change where we are. This is where we are. So the question, I think, is really for the board. I hear the residents. I understand those that write paper checks and don't want to. I understand. I don't suffer the same problem. I have no problem personally at home with e-checks. We don't even own checks. So, but that doesn't mean I don't understand it. I sympathize with you all on it, but it comes down to a board decision. So I'm going to ask again, how does the board?
If I put Fish Hawk Ranch West into my bank account, which I've been doing for the last 5 years, and have a check sent from my e-bank checking account to Fishhawk Ranch West Homeowners Association, I should not be charged a fee for that. None of us should. Period. End of discussion. I should not have to enter my bank information into Appfolia to not be assessed an additional fee. End of discussion.
I fully understand. So to continue the discussion, I'm going to ask this one more time. The 7 board members, do we want to charge a fee for check processing? How do we feel? Mark, Will, Kathy, John, Johanna?
So this is labor on our side and a accounting issue from making sure that we know that they have paid. That's the issue there. So that has a cost to it. So, I understand. I'm kind of between that is difficult. I'm not sure if I agree with getting rid of it, the fee, since it has a cost to us.
So, but this is an in-house cost, right?
It's an in-house cost because Jennifer is handling
I
it.
understand. And I don't diminish the importance of what she's doing. But I know, I mentioned this before, I believe we shouldn't charge people for collecting their checks.
Okay, well, how many of these instances are we expecting?
I don't know. The reason why is that not everyone's onboarded yet, but a good chunk of people are paying electronically or already have either by credit card or ACH or e-check as they're called on Appfolio. The difference between the e-check is it's not, when they're trying to send it directly from their bank to our bank, which we don't have facility for that. We certainly could do what Associate did, which is a lockbox, which comes to another expense for us. Lockbox would be, and then it has to be posted from the lockbox.
Sure. What about this option? Why don't we go forward without the fee and see how many these things are coming through? And how much
It's going to be 60 to 120.
No,
once everything
we've already
levels off.
processed more than 300 payments.
We have now. So once this levels off, how much were we processing in checks prior?
None,
None.
because everything was
In
going
the lockbox.
to the lock boxes, so nothing was allowed to come here to the lake house.
How many and we don't know how many checks on average per month we're going to the lockbox.
I have no idea.
Yeah, that was a kind of a silly question, but thank you for asking.
Well, I think it matters, how many of these we're doing. It makes, I think, a big difference. If we're doing 300 is a big difference in like 20 or,
Let me put a financial number on this for you. If we don't do a fee, it still costs money. So
Yes,
we
I know.
raise the dues to pay for it.
well, yeah, I mean, that's what we will ultimately.
Yeah.
shift to how
Except
we
it
do
is a part of a sunk cost already. We're not gonna pay her extra to do that. We're gonna add it to her job. So
If
I
she
don't
does
think
that
it's,
time to do her job and I have to pay someone to do it.
Well, then we have a different problem. Yeah.
Well,
see, I would go with what was suggested here, that we hold on charging for the checks for a quarter till the end of the year. And then reassess where we're going with this and look at other options that may be available to us to help. Because I think that, I really think, my personal feeling is that unless they use a service that's convenient to them, and that is like credit cards and stuff like that, that we ought not to be charging a fee for things that are just convenient to us as the management. So I would suggest that we try it, see how many people opt for it, and then we can put a dollar amount on how much it's costing us and justify what we're doing.
I have a kind of a suggestion there. Mark and I were discussing this earlier as well. It's almost like ripping off the Band-Aid one way or the other. I am not for charging money for taking in checks. I was really on the fence of it earlier, and the more and more I thought about it, it is a little asinine. It takes us time, We need to hire someone to do it later on because it takes us so much time, and that's what we do. But I don't think we should put a fee on check processing. It's just a gut feeling. It's not going to change in a quarter. It's not going to change next month. It's just not the right thing to do. If we end up raising our dues because of some other reason and it gets coupled in there, then it gets coupled in.
Yeah, the difference is that if people are using a credit card, which is for their convenience, we charge a fee. If they use,
We don't charge. The fees for the
no, I'm just saying
transactions,
they pay for it.
they pay for it, but we don't charge anything for it. The fees are going straight to Appfolio at that point, same as it did on Town Square.
Mhm.
Nothing's changed there. The only difference between what they're doing and what Appfolio does, which I don't know the gentleman's name that said this, is that, yeah, you're putting your information in as opposed to them sending it to us. But that means that we have to give our information out, which is just as a large a security risk as them giving it to us.
It's all the same problem. I
I know,
mean,
I'm
you
just saying, yeah.
I could create another bank account, as I was telling Mark earlier. Have my direct deposit split to another bank account, say, this is gonna be my ACH account, because I wouldn't dare want to give my real credentials to someone else. But that's not the question. The question here is,
I would make
Charge
a
it.
motion to
Charges.
wait, not have the processing.
I'm comfortable doing this.
Okay.
I want to put in a motion to charge a $25 check processing. Can I get a second?
Do what?
She's asking for it to get denied.
You want to up for that motion? Let me change.
Hey, Tommy, can I get my 2 cents in here?
Yeah, I'll even change the motion. The motion would be to put in a check processing fee.
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did
it's hard to hear over the laughing and things like that. So we know that processing checks now is going to place an additional burden on our management staff. Right now, we don't know what that burden will be. So until we can adequately assess that, I think that right now would not be an appropriate time to put in a check processing fee. Now, if it turns out that, like you said, Tommy, we need to hire another person to process checks, then that's something that the community is going to have to pay for. But I would not be at this time supportive of a check processing fee until we know what the full burden will be.
I just want that to be in the form of a motion, and I stated it wrong. So
Yeah, hey, and one more thing. Hey, can I get one more thing in real quick? So I've heard a lot of concern about people saying, I don't want to put my routing number and my account number into AppFolio. But essentially, just so everybody, all cards are on the table. If you send us a check, your account number and your routing number are right there on the check.
Check.
You're giving that, not to mention that check fraud is still a very, very big thing. And you could wash a check in your kitchen. So people steal checks from the mail all the time. It happens all the time. So there's always a certain amount of risk you're going to take one way or another.
Okay,
So
so
that this is not a new burden. This is the HOA accepting our money. Is there a fee if I come up with a full bag of pennies?
No,
Other than the fact that we don't take cash.
other than the bank that charges discount it.
Hey, look, this is Mark. I don't think we're not going to take the time to entertain any sarcastic comments here. Let's get this meeting moving.
yeah.
Thank you, Mark. I do have one thing to add. I'm going to make a motion here and then to specifically not charge fees. But before I do that, I do want to address one thing. We do have a problem, whereas if you're in a service area, you require 2 checks, not one. You can't group it all together. So if you're going to send us a check, make sure you know what you're doing with it. So that you're paying for the master on one check and you're paying for your service area on another, because that does make our life
Huge difference.
So can we we can waive it for people that?
I don't think it's waived.
We're
just
not waiving.
Oh, no,
rejected.
okay, we're not having a checking fee, and we're asking people to pay the service area separate from the main.
Correct.
And even if they had auto debit now set up with e-check, that's exactly how it would be wrong. So it's the same thing. So if Patty gets or Jennifer gets a check, either one gets a check, looks at it, and it's just wrong, they can contact the homeowner, rip up the check, request 2 refunds. We can't accept payment. So checks are great. No processing fee. We just need 2.
You said 2 checks is completely rational.
2 checks or what?
Completely rational.
Oh, I thought you said irrational.
Sorry, sorry.
Your motion.
Okay, so
Okay, I'll make a motion to deny the use of a check processing fee.
Well, we don't charge a fee right now, so we don't need to make a
So
motion.
just table.
So
the whole
just
thing.
table it until
Or not
we,
table,
I don't
just.
even want to table it. So that's the thing, there's nothing to table.
can we
End of
just make the
discussion.
policy of not having one?
Yeah, 'cause
Well, we don't have a policy now, so we can just move on.
Right, it's just end the discussion.
The discussion's over. Let's move on to the next thing.
Okay,
It's over.
discussion's over, folks. We're not charging check
So,
processing.
what was it that brought it to the homeowners' attention where they knew that there was a fee out there for it?
I mean, are
We
we-
didn't, we were just thinking of the potentially,
You see what causes the stir?
Yeah.
What causes the stir is I put out the agenda so people can read them. So people always assume that, oh, it's on the agenda, they must want to do it. And that's not necessarily true. And that's a good takeaway here, folks. We don't want to do it, but it doesn't mean that it's not a qualified talking.
You need to have this on the agenda each month, so that way you'll get a good audience.
That is true, though.
Okay,
Hey, Tommy, I just think that it's important to note that if this turns into 300, 400, 500 checks a month, this could be a problem and it may need to be readdressed down the road.
A different problem. It's a problem that says we have an internal processing problem. You know, most companies don't say, stop paying me, this is all wrong, or I need to charge you more to pay me. They figure it out internally. It's an internal issue. The market's not going to be like that. It just can't be. It's not possible. We're not the first HOA in history to have checks coming in for 1,200 plus units.
Right, but I can tell you in my past homeowners association, we did actually do ACH for everybody, and it was mandatory. And it worked great because no one ever got late fees. We never put anyone to collection and we never had a problem with anything like we're talking about.
Yeah, that being said, my personal note is I can't stand checks. I don't have any. I don't know why you people write them. I get it. Everything should be ACH, but
it's a personal preference.
it's a personal
Somebody put
preference.
So in my
better
family, my
that
wife
people
has her
pay than
desk
don't.
and she has checks.
that's
Mine,
true.
I have
It's a good problem to
my accounts and I
have.
have no checks.
Yeah, okay.
All right, can we
Okay.
move on?
Can we
Yes,
move,
we can.
moving
Sorry.
on? We don't, Mac.
Mac's
not
notice,
here.
he's not here, but his notice is here.
Yes.
So did anyone read Mac's notice? They want to change anything? I think it's great.
I think it's very good.
Let's see. You know what, Brooker, fine.
Great. Put in a quick motion to approve the sending out of Mac's bird notice. This will go out. Matt's bat notice, sorry. This will go out on Folio, MailChimp for email, and be posted on Facebook. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. And the last one we don't even need to really discuss. There was Lake House rental, $46 fee. We kind of talked about that. I want to see if we could fix that with a new.
Yes.
Okay, so cable?
So, kind of table it.
Kind of table it, somewhere in there.
It's Florida too, and just get rid of it, so.
Okay, so what was this purpose? This was for the cleaning fee?
This is for
Yes.
when we have parties on the weekend. We need someone to be able to come in here. and clean up. So the thought process was $50 a party to hang around for the weekend and clean up.
Well, let's table that.
Let's
until we-
table.
Okay, let's table that discussion. We'll get to that. Then we have quotes to
Yeah.
discuss.
Okay. Announcement, dogs off leashes.
Okay. Announcements, dogs off leash. You should have put this one
So there's
first.
one down the street, have you been there?
No.
Wait.
Do we have to have a?
I'm sorry, what?
Okay. My wife's been. Are you listening to this? My wife's been attacked 3 times by animals in the past month, and she wanted me to bring it up, and I agree. Ever since I moved in here, this has been a problem. This is a problem everywhere in the
You
community.
gotta stop carrying bacon.
If you own, she is my little dog. It's a slice of bacon. If you own a dog, the community rules are you put a harness around its neck. Period. If it can get through your fence, you put a cone around its head, or you get what's called a puppy fence. Is it expensive? Yes, it is. This is what you do when you have a dog. So all I'm saying, she's been bitten on the leg, bleeding from the leg over here on the lake house by a dog that escaped out of its harness. We have dogs around the neighborhood that are just popping through fences and running up, chasing a dog. She's picking up our dog. They're snapping at each other. She's getting scratched. I see this happen all the time. Mark and I are doing work at the dog park, and we're seeing people cradling the dogs like they're cattle and getting them through while they're holding the leashes unleashed to the dog in their hands. I mean, come on, let's go. Put the leashes on the dog. This is the warning. Please do it. We're going to start sending out violations for dogs that are unleashed and escape artists. We know dogs escape. I've lost mine several times. That's not what I'm talking about. Not talking about the accidents, talking about the chronic people that decide to walk around the block with their dogs. So, yeah,
Well,
Very reasonable.
absolutely. So,
that was my announcement, sorry.
well, that's fine. We have
Very,
to.
very
What?
nice. I appreciate it.
I'm like, I'm reading this, I'm like, you know, I have to have a second conversation before having a meeting.
Hey, Tommy, Mark here.
Yeah.
Resident input.
And just add to that it is in the governing documents that people are not supposed to have their dogs in their backyard unattended for just this reason.
Exactly, unattended nonetheless, you are correct.
Well, I mean, as long as they're not, if it's a fence, they're not getting out, that's not a problem, but if they're going off out there, you know.
Don't say that, we have people who have dogs that bark for 8 hours straight unattended left that way, which is a
8
noise
hours?
violation problem.
And why are they getting called complaints?
Oh,
Yeah, they are.
Okay, well, that can't be continuing.
So, okay.
Okay, resident input, I'm sorry, it's just, it happened 3 times in 3 weeks, she was bid, I had to pick her up. Her leg, she keeps telling me if I want pictures for the meeting of her leg, no, we don't.
No.
But anyways, resident input, if anyone has anything we didn't discuss yet, please, now is the time.
Parking,
Parking,
at Westlake entrance, we've got to do something about that.
it's a massive problem that we have zero control over. And almost no recourse of action. Most of your problem right now is at the school district. They are the root cause of it, and they should be policing Westlake, and they should be stopping it. The question here, who wants to attend the school district board meeting to let them know and enforce this? And I don't mean that as a slide, just literally, we've talked about it so many times that it's either us literally hiring security personnel to sit there, or hiring off-duty cops, or going to the root of the problem.
No, I was just thinking maybe, add a sign. Somebody mentioned that Sean had a gate that will not, bother somebody else's property. I don't know if that's true.
Even if we could, like, just add a sign, they're not gonna listen.
They don't listen.
She was talking about building a gate. There's talk about that in our neighborhood. and I advised against it, but there's a way to build a gate.
Sure.
There is a
Well,
way, but it's.
Yeah, I mean, I brought it up to one of the, there's a lady that was nice enough that forwarded it to the middle school parents. And people were really just not comprehending, like, did the red line and they're like, is that unloading or loading? It's like, no. But the fact remains is the people are just so nasty and violent.
And that's why your options are off-duty cops coming out of our HOA funds to fix the problem. Very clear about it.
In the meantime, is there someone
But the
that,
problem isn't just Westlake, so
Yeah.
it really would be shared because you have a problem going down the whole street.
Right.
well, I understand that part, but our street is narrower than
I know.
the street across. Is there any way that we as a community, if we come together to add, the stones, where they can't park on that area?
You can't, I don't believe you can. I
Talking
don't,
about the bumps, the rise up bumps that would be along the side there, they'll just park outside of that.
They don't.
yeah, but part of the problem is we are not a deterrent, right? And civilian citizens, we can't go up there being deterrent. It's like you said, they're just nasty.
They
They're
are.
going to be, but if you have a badge, it's gonna change.
Well, I understand that, but the cops aren't doing anything because it comes back to it being a private road. So what I'm saying is, as a community, if we come together and we want to put those, round ball looking things on the side to where it doesn't, keeps them at least off of the grass halfway, that is intent. Maybe asking and the speeding is also really bad too on that corner and this corner coming up.
Bumps.
Is there any way to talk to get crossing guard
Hey, Tommy, Mark here.
to be up on that?
You would have to talk to the school. That's why I initially started. The problems at the school, they should be providing a crossing guard. They should be providing they have a police on premise. They should be providing someone to deal with the neighborhood parking issue that they are causing. Mark.
Tom, just to offer a solution, she mentioned if Westlake wants to come together and solve this problem, there's a solution, but it's not a cheap one. It would be that Westlake buys those roads from the county, becomes a gated community, and can pay to put up a gate. And it's expensive, I know.
Mark,
What's that?
Roads.
We already
We
are.
already own our roads.
Westlake owns their roads, they would need to buy a gate.
The comment was, can we put cones out in front of the intersection to keep it clear?
I mean, in front of the intersection, it's not ours. So technically, no, you can't put anything on county roads without county approval. But what you're asking for is, can someone go police it? Because that's what it is, putting out cones, taking cones back every day, you're policing it. And the answer is, no, we really can't police this as civilians.
So.
So if Westlake owns its roads, then it can put up a gate.
Here's the problem, okay? We have a minimum clearance of 24 feet for fire code. The gate would be in the swales, or the section behind that, it would have to be a rolling gate. We're talking about $100,000 to $75,000 expense to build. I've built these gates before, and I know it's not a simple process. More importantly, ongoing expense. We had pushed back for a $9 increase last year. This would be a $100 increase per person. So, or more. We only have 41 homes there. So the feasibility is just not there. And I have to have 51% of the vote for a special assessment. That means that each house there is going to pay $2,000 to pay for a gate. It's a temporary problem that needs a different solution. It only happens for an hour or so each day. That's a lot of money to spend for an hour or so each day.
And more than that, I know you want to, but here's the thing. You could go out there and point the cars and argue with them and get them in a different direction.
I understand that.
You could also get shot.
Yes, I know, but when it comes to where it's a safety issue, we need to do something, because I'm telling you right now. Something happens to me, there was somebody that mentioned about 2 years ago. The individual followed this parent's child to their work and harassed them. And it's just a matter of time that backfiring.
Sure.
And they're gonna look at Westlake and go, wait a minute, you guys didn't do anything, hey, we're gonna go out and use there's something.
And we're going to go after school. So my question is, have you gone to a school board yet for this?
No, I started with our area
Because
first.
there truly is not much you
Signs
can do.
not, a sign might be a first step, because they are arguing, there's no sign on the sides.
Any comments?
Can we put up a sign?
Signs are expensive. It's a private road.
Should I even volunteer?
It's not $10,
It's
I
not,
promise
it's
you.
a couple $1,000.
You have to build it, the sign has to be matching the ones that are there.
It has to be you.
I'm not against looking into getting the sign.
If you have a person at the school board, no problem.
I don't. But someone
I
needs
just
to
don't,
go.
I don't know who it is, so.
Well,
Or the
school board's
resource
public.
School board's public. We could look it up, find the meetings and just go. I've seen them come through before, so it's not.
Well, I thought before Heather had somebody, resource officer. Somebody put, tell the school board.
She did. Yeah, but that's the thing. That's just an email going to the resource officer. Westlake to show up at their meeting and say, hey, all of us, pay attention. They might listen to that. So, that's the sad truth. So if you could rally Westlake and get 20, 30 people to show up at a school board meeting, you probably get much better attention than we have.
I mean, they do have some, they could probably remanage that, their drive.
Next meeting is
So-
Tuesday.
Says we just had our new district newly elected rep is Patty Rendon.
At 4 to 6 p.m. on the 30th.
Can someone from the board go talk to the new principal at Barrington and see if we can do anything? She may be keen to make a good impression.
Anyone want to? And
It's a big problem in it, with the many complaints on the
Yeah,
on a second note, as far as the sign, I do agree. Probably should be a sign.
Or even if they just have a crossing guard that.
We can get it.
We can price the signs out. And the vendor that made those signs, what are those stupid posts and match everything according to their stupid charter. So,
Right.
Do you want to price that out? You want to hand it to me?
Yeah. Let me give you a contact.
Price out.
Yeah, I'll find some quotes on signs. I do think, not that I think they're going to listen, I think it's work, right? You don't want someone to do something. You want someone to stop, put up a stop sign.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
No.
I'm just pissed, I almost got T-bone.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
horrible situation.
4 o'clock, check 901 East Kennedy Boulevard, Tampa.
Yeah, it's a horrible situation. I remember we were trying to send Heather down there. We can't police it.
It's also
Especially when there's a parking lot here.
Yeah.
They could
Well, that's
easily
it.
park right here.
And some use it, but
Right, and some use it and some don't.
choose not. Okay.
All right.
So,
Anybody online that wants to?
Asked about the
Yeah, I just wanted to provide a little bit of feedback. Early on in the meeting, tech didn't work, we couldn't hear you. Somewhere along the lines, you found your voices, you fixed your tech, and the last couple of hours have actually been very easy to follow. So thank you very much.
we had storms here, knocked out the internet. You actually didn't miss much. It was just me fiddling with the laptop and rebooted it. We pretty much paused what we were doing until we got you all back online. Thank you. Hey,
Make a motion, we adjourn.
motion to adjourn. Start that.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
All in favor, motion adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for sitting through all this.
Yes, I just
We- we
have
need to
been
go.
ignoring